Oh, good. Well, welcome everyone to the City of Calabasas Planning Commission meeting of April 20th, 2023. First, welcome back, Dennis. I see that we have Wendy Fassberg, who's absent, and her absence is excused. I think we begin well with the Pledge of Allegiance. Bob, could you lead us with that?
Hand over your heart. Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Bob. Next is the approval of the agenda.
Sorry, if I could just jump in here and we do a quick roll call. Is that previously? Is that?
Oh, I just said that everybody was here, but Wendy's absent and excused. But do you want me to go one by one, or do you want to do it that way?
Whatever is typically done. So I just thought it was first on the agenda. So but just we noted that Commissioner Fassberg is not here, and so we do have quorum, and we can proceed.
We do have a quorum.
Yes, we do.
Yep.
And do we need a motion to approve the agenda?
Yes, go ahead.
I move it.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Do we need to do, we don't need to do roll call anymore, do we? We had to last time, I think, because somebody, Dennis was remote or something. Anyway, all right, next is announcements and introductions. I'll start at the other end. John?
Nothing tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Greg?
Nothing. We have Earth Day coming up on Sunday between 2 and 4, I think. So everybody, that's always a cool event. And so I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention.
Thank you. Dennis?
I'll just amplify. It's 2 to 5 and it's at the creek park that we created by removing all the cement from the river that comes out of Las Virgenes, preserve up the stream. And it's 2 to 5. And there will be lots of interesting exhibits, events, entertainment, and opportunities to learn and also contribute to the community and its environmental health. So y'all come.
Great. And can you just park at like the Albertsons parking lot, or?
Well, they hope that you're going to park on the street, or if you shop, they're happy to have you park.
Got it.
So, that's the way that works.
All right, good. Bob?
Nothing tonight.
And nothing for me. Anything from staff or no? Okay, good. Then oral communications is next on the agenda, and that's for comments on matters that are not on our agenda. So if someone wants to speak on something else, no, I don't see any hands, or I don't have any cards. So then we'll go on to the next item, which is a consent item.
I think we'll just check with staff that make sure that they haven't received any comments, because this is a hybrid meeting. That no one's,
right.
Anything
Sorry.
correspondence wise, generally, everything's about one of the agenda items or another. And I don't see any hands raised either.
Thank you for interrupting me, Effie, because I can't see who's out there in the ether. So, okay. So we have a
Now I have a hand up.
Oh, okay.
So it's Jerome Con something. I don't see the whole. I've asked to unmute the person.
Hey, hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Are we able to hear him now?
How about now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I'm sorry. This is the first time I'm joining, and I'm a homeowner over in Saratoga Hills. And there was a letter sent to join this meeting about 5222 Dante's View.
Oh, good. Okay. Could you join us later? That's item 4 on our agenda, and we're just about on item 1. I mean, could you call back in.
Yeah, I can hold. I just want to make sure I'm in the right place. Thank
You
you.
are in the right place and it works. We can hear you.
Fantastic. Okay, great.
And when you call back on, can you tell us your name? And I know you live up there, but
Yes.
okay, great. Okay. So then we go to our consent items, which we have two: approval of the minutes of April 6th and adoption of resolution 2023-751. But I believe, Dennis, you had some comments.
Well, I'd actually like to pull item 2 for discussion and a question and answer.
Okay. How about item 1? Does anybody have any changes for the minutes?
I move approval. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that's unanimous. Okay.
Just chiming in to say, yes, the vote was unanimous on approving item 1.
Okay. Eventually I'll get it. So then we're looking at item number 2, which is a resolution approving file numbers variance 2023-001 and zoning clearance 2023-033, which concerns a 13-foot tall retaining wall, grading, and a fence on a vacant parcel located at 25424 Prado de Azul, owned by the Oaks Community Association. And I believe you had some issues, Dennis.
I have a question to ask and a policy, I guess, to discuss.
Okay.
I think we all voted, or at least the commission in attendance at April 6th, it did vote in affirmative to recommend that the staff prepare the resolution, and it is before us tonight. But there was a question that in the studying of all of this and for tonight's packet, that has been a longstanding question in my mind. Peril of being around for a long time, because the city was founded when the project was being proposed and forced upon us, in fact, by the Los Angeles County. And this is not a point of resistance, it's just time frame. So that is basically 32 years ago. We were required to accept a development agreement to approve the project. And there were changes all along the way. And it went from the Baldwin Boys to, New Millennium Homes. And we modified our allowance of number of lots to be developed for a number of exchanges and things like that, all of which were, I think, satisfactorily made to come out right. I've been asking since day one of LA County and of the Baldwin Boys and of Lou Malone, what we do to manage the runoff water, or the, what we now call stormwater. And we require a stormwater pollution prevention permit, and everything is in order. But one of the concerns I've had from the very beginning of this project is, does the water from this project that falls on it, even in an atmospheric river circumstance like we've experienced in the last, 4 or 5 months, does it flow into the storm drain system that is permitted to the developers and the owners of the property? Or doesn't it, in fact, have an opportunity to escape? And is this erosion problem that we're trying to cure a result of water that's escaping from the design system that goes into the whole bowl of the New Millennium project, and then goes into the storm drains and goes down McCoy Creek and goes to Long Beach down the LA River? That's how it works. So my question is, do we know where the water came from that caused the erosion? And when the repair is done, because we've approved the variance, is a barrier at this point to undertaking a project like this. And we're talking about 48-foot deep pilings and a significant flood control device that's here, not just a fence. It sounds innocent as a fence, but as a project, it's very complex. It's very expensive. And it's also that perhaps a questionable circumstance where when this is done, where does the water go? Does it go into the Malibu Creek watershed, or does it go into the McCoy Creek watershed that is from Park or Prado de Azul all the way down to Long Beach, like I'm saying? So you probably can help me with that. And if there are unanswered circumstances here, one of my concerns is that in many of our projects, if you look beyond the project and even the 500-foot notification of the property owners, you have issues that are oftentimes unanticipated and also unremediated or unaddressed out of nobody's fault. It's just that's the way we look at that piece of property. So maybe you can help me understand where we are, what will happen when this flood control project is completed, because that's what it is. At least up to this point, the erosion that has come out of the Oaks on either public or private or HOA property, it's being stopped by a 13-foot high and a very deep piling, flood control project and a soil stabilization project engineering recommendation. So
Definitely a big project. Does staff know where the water drains to?
where they come from in the first place, and where's it going to go to when we're done?
Okay. If you remember, the wall that's proposed is not at the very top. It's a little ways down. There's a graded slope that will go down to where the wall would be constructed.
No, you have those 48-foot pilings that go down
Right.
into the ground.
Where the wall is, there's drainage collection that's part of that construction that goes then to riprap, and the water that falls in that area will go to the same watershed it did before. So the watershed division is not being altered by this project.
What happened to create the erosion in the first place, though? Because it looks like it's runoff from the.
Well, there was a slope there before.
Pardon?
There was a slope in that location before,
I understand.
and it was eroding. So now it will be replaced, but also held back by the wall so that it won't erode again. It's not creating a new part of the drainage basin. It's not flood control, it's erosion control.
In looking at the design, it's a major structure.
Yeah, you've got a lot to.
And not a fence repair and a variance to, go 13 feet up, from the surface, because the surface is going to have a lot of fill and a lot of cut in order to create the stabilization that we all desire there, and that the HOA needs to ultimately ensure gets done and funded. So it's a pretty complex set of circumstances there.
Well, this body's looking at it from the standpoint of zoning conformance and the variance that would be required to do a wall taller than 6 feet. So that was what was considered last time, and this group decided to approve it and asked us to prepare the resolution, which we've done. Now, Jacqueline's sharing the screen so that she can show you and describe to you those parameters, and I'll just ask you to show the contours that show the existing slope.
Commissioner Washburn, if you can see in this image here, you can see the riprap drainage basin on either side of the wall.
Let me ask both of you to speak a little loudly, because I'm having a hard time hearing you, and it's me, not the system.
No.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear better. The
Okay.
microphone wasn't close.
On either side of the wall, you can see in this image, if you can read the text here, the riprap drainage basin, and then there's a 12-inch concrete swale behind the wall. So any runoff, any water runoff will first land in the concrete swale and then to the riprap drainage basin at either side.
Are you able to
And that's
first
still
on what you were
to
describing?
repeat, to what I was saying before. May I have the mouse for a sec?
She did, but it's hard to see.
Now we don't want to see part of it, but
Oh.
this contour, the light gray contours here represent the existing terrain. So water that falls in this area today go to the Las Virgenes watershed, as you noted. So that's the situation today, and it will continue to be the situation after this project. No change occurs. Water that falls farther to the northeast, which is on the property, as you recall correctly, goes the other direction. Actually, the lots slope gently away from that rear property line, which is a bermed property line. So that remains, that condition is not changing. This is simply repairing an eroded slope in the same location with something that will withstand against erosion in the future. That's what this project's about.
Well, is there a way in which in the, I guess, the installation of the system to deal with what we're talking about, that we can ensure that the storm drainage of the New Millennium property is the primary receiving point, and that only under an extreme circumstance would we test the integrity of this wall and trying to prevent erosion going or slope failure going into the Malibu Creek watershed and threatening, frankly, the SEA, the ESHA, the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy and so-called MRCA property as well, because, you know, downhill, quite a distance, of course, is a bunch of valuable open space or so-called, you know, habitat and environmentally sensitive. And SEA is what scenic or
Significant.
ecological area. So
Commissioner,
I think that we've probably addressed most of this, and certainly the engineering fix is probably going to make sure that nothing happens bad, but it's still not in conformance with my understanding of what we were hoping the drainage from any of the residential properties would do, which is go into the McCoy Creek and ultimately to Long Beach.
Commissioner Washburn, my recommendation is that if we want to add another condition to the resolution that's on the table, that condition could specify that the final grading plan confirm that the 2% slope that was mentioned earlier by Mr. Bartlett will continue to direct water from the residential properties adjacent to the grading to the storm drain system.
And there are 3 properties there, right, that are essentially victims of all the rain we got.
I understand your point. I think what you're concerned is that we don't want to end up with a situation where water from the adjacent properties will drain towards this new feature because of this project. You want the water from the residential properties adjacent to this project to continue draining to the storm drain distance.
Is that in the conditions now, or is it something that we want to actually add at this point in order to make sure that everything that can be done is done in order to make the drainage go into the LA watershed, essentially?
The commission wants to make a motion with that as a amended condition or an added condition to the resolution, then the commission can do so.
Well, I would make that, but I want to make sure that I'm not just dominating this discussion. I mean, if I'm all wet here, so to speak.
Maybe I could speak to this. We're not altering the drainage pattern. We're merely arresting erosion, and we're actually stopping material from going down the slope by this retaining wall. So the drainage pattern is not being altered at all. The drainage that went that way is still going that way.
Well, I understand, but what I'm saying is that if it's frankly just a part of the program or the project to make sure that as much of the runoff and the runoff threat and the pollution of the runoff threat can go into the system that was designed to handle it, rather than sticking into the, significant ecological area and the ESHA, and it could find its way down to the Conservancy property. Again, I'm not championing anybody's, program here. I'm just saying if it's possible to make it happen, and it's frankly the language at this point of a condition, then I would certainly appreciate help in recommending what that is and doing something about it.
I believe Tom Bartlett is writing a condition right now.
It's a good guess. Here's a thought of how we could put it. I think it's probably best if we're going to add a condition that we have the verbiage nailed down so that it's very specific and everybody agrees what it'd be. So here's something to start. It could be, and I'm word by word going to suggest this, beyond the grading limits at the upslope extent of the project area, no stormwater runoff may be directed into or toward the retaining wall and attendant features of the project.
That would work. I mean,
So that means anything that
If
is
the
basically
bulk of the
east, northeast
goes
of what they
into
show as the grading limit line on this diagram cannot drain in any way into this new feature. It has to drain away from it, which is what it does today.
May I make a comment?
Sure.
And I don't want to put words in Commissioner Burns' mouth, but I think he was saying sort of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. In other words, what we approved does what Tom just said without having to add a condition that says it. So that's in the law, we call that surplusage. We don't need it. Now, if we need it, or if you want to put something in that the engineering will be constructed in such a way that, and then Tom's words, I mean, I guess it's underscoring the point. I haven't heard any strong reason why we need it. I'm not offended by it, but it just seems duplicative.
well, if I can respond to that, and that is that in this project over the years, many years now, you know, there have been many instances where we've accommodated, you know, not grading or grading in different places or accepting land in lieu of, you know, some other remediation. And it's been to the benefit of the whole community. In this instance, it might be worth our while to have, if not to change the engineering solution that's being proposed, but instead indicate that it should have a 3 or 5 year monitoring program of some kind where a reportage is necessary to say, hey, all's good. You know, it's working and it's not threatening anybody in the conservancy or the trail or, and it's going to where it was originally designated to go to, but for the atmospheric river that wiped us all out, you know, so I mean, it's not somebody's fault. It's just, what do we do now? Could we put a monitoring? In fact, we did that for the oak tree transplantation in this project way back when, and I think we had a 10-year monitoring period that the Resource Conservation District monitored in order to make sure that the boxed oaks were healthy and the transplanted oaks were surviving and so forth. I mean, that's an example of how this might work.
What is it that you want to monitor?
I'm sorry.
What is it that you want to monitor?
The performance of the solution. Is the water going into the storm water permitted project area, or is it potentially leaking, over the dam or around the dam to the watershed itself?
I mean, it seems to me
watershed versus the McCoy Creek watershed.
It seems to me that if anything, this is helping the solution because there won't be mud and other things going down into that valley, which goes into Malibu Creek.
We mean with the engineering fix.
Yes, with the fix.
I'm not fighting the engineering fix. I'm just saying, where does the water go?
It went where it went before. We're not altering where the water goes. It's not changing anything from where it originally went.
I understand, but
It's going the same way.
but all the residential properties in the Oaks should have drained into the SWIP permitted storm drain system. That's the whole point. And it might be something, frankly, that we just monitor and say, hey, no threat, no problem.
I just want to point out again, because this drawing is up, it could be misconstrued as being a bigger project than it really is. I realize it's expensive and involved in terms of the engineering and construction just to be able to do this wall. The wall itself is about 65 feet long, and the area you see there that's the grading limits, inclusive of the wall, is about 2,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So we're talking about an area that's smaller than most houses in Calabasas. And it's all being handled with appropriate engineering to handle that drainage in the area where the drainage already occurs.
Well, I wouldn't expect any failure of the uphill cut fill solution. And the engineering is more than adequate from everything I have in my experience. But if in fact, while we're doing the project, we can add that extra layer of assurance that there won't be not just failure here, but anywhere, frankly, in the Oaks development, we're lucky that this is actually the only major thing we have, and Park Aura's got a problem, that in Bellagio is a slope failure. If you haven't driven by, you might want to take a look. And again, my guess is that either the landscape maintenance district or which is the homeowners paying the bill, or the Bellagio Homeowners Association is going to have to figure out how to fix that. And in this case, it's the Oaks HOA, and they probably have a meaningful reserve fund, but it's still going to cost a lot of money to all the homeowners, all of them, not just the 3 property owners that we're helping at this point. It's a collaborative or cooperative. So I'm just looking to make sure that we got belt and suspenders in this case to hold the pants up.
Yes, sir.
What troubles me is I think really, Dennis, what you're suggesting is words that really ought to be part of the finding. I've heard discussion now from several people that nothing's going to change. The water's going to go where it went before. That's a fact. And that's a finding as opposed to a condition. And I don't have any problem adding a sentence to finding 4, which is the granting of the variance will not be detrimental to public health, blah, 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 that says that it makes a finding that the water will go to the watershed it's supposed to go to or has historically gone to, or whatever word you want to use. Then you have a finding. And if it doesn't work, inspectors go out there during the next atmospheric river 2 years from now and see that it's not working, then you have a finding that can, you have a challenge.
Well, I agree with that. Decent solution. The city will probably, once this is approved, the variance is a simple thing. I mean, we'd say, fine, build a 13-foot high wall, and you guys go figure out, how to make sure that it doesn't leak and it doesn't threaten and it doesn't cost you more money in the future. But it might be worth our while to say that then they should perhaps monitor this and bring it back to the HOA so that they're alerted to the fact that there is something that can be done of a preventative nature or an additional engineering nature that would be a lot less expensive than dealing with, a dam failure.
So
not that I expect this will happen.
Are you concerned that they won't come back if there is a failure of some kind?
Well, it's still in the homeowners association, not us. They're not coming, they get a variance, they're done with the city. That's what our code says, right?
But it seems to me if something doesn't work, they're going to come back or something, they're going to, no,
They have to deal with it themselves.
So I'm not sure, other than I don't mind the finding that John mentioned. But I'm not sure what else to add here. I don't know. How do you feel about?
I agree. Water's going where it went before. And unless there's a man-made diversion, which is not on the table, I don't see that there's anything that we need to do.
Well, it'll be up to the HOA, and at least it's been brought up, and they will pay attention, I'm sure, because this is going to be a very expensive project. Yeah. They're going to want to make sure it lasts forever.
I would hope so.
Yeah,
they don't want to revisit this. All right. So is it okay then?
Well, I mean, I would like to take John's suggestion then in the findings that we do identify that that's the issue.
And how would you word that, John? Or where would you put it?
Something you have something.
You have something too. We can both suggest things.
So in item 4 on page 4.
Who wants to go first?
You go resolution.
All right. So
you go ahead.
This was for adding to the finding number 4. And right now, the first sentence says the proposed retaining wall and associated slope reconstruction and drainage improvements will reestablish slope stability and protect public safety on the subject property as well as on the 2 adjacent properties. And then we could add another sentence. Furthermore, granting of the variance to accommodate the proposed retaining wall and attendant slope repairs and drainage features will not alter the fundamental drainage patterns of the applicable watersheds. And then after that sentence, you'd have the one that begins accordingly, public health, et cetera.
Is that all right, Dennis?
Sounds okay. As long as it doesn't affect our indemnification in some way. I don't want anybody coming back and saying, hey, you guys should have caught this.
Well,
Does it, Mr. City?
No, It will not.
Let's be clear, if we're gonna add that finding, the city, Jacqueline and Tom, you can agree that it's true.
We've alerted everybody. It's
Yeah,
it's
I
a
mean,
finding and
let's not add a finding unless everyone is confident that that is a true statement.
Yeah, we do, excuse me, I'm sorry. We do agree. We're well aware after the many years here and the different properties that have been developed over the years in the estates at the Oaks that those south-facing rear yards for this group have a slope away from basically the ridge line as it became sort of reconfigured through this project and runs along the rear property lines of these lots. There's a slight berm there, and they're not allowed to build tall structures within a certain distance. There was a whole bit of analysis that was done and an agreement between the HOA basically and Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy relative to visibilities from the state park, for example, and things like that. So the drainage also was accomplished similarly so that you did not convey any of the stormwater drainage from the large project, the 557 home development that is known at the Oaks, inclusive of the estates at the Oaks. That drainage is all collected and conveyed eastward, northeastward toward the LA River watershed, basically, ultimately. And this does represent that dividing line location. And so this particular project, in terms of the grading limits, will continue to convey things to the Las Virgenes side of the watershed break, and everything on the property lots, the lots that adjoin are continuing to go northeast toward the other watershed. That's why I said applicable watersheds in that statement there too.
Well,
And
just one more item and I'll shut up. You mentioned, the ridge line, and this commission has been struggling, frankly, to get both staff and commission time to deal with ridge line issues. And this is one of those issues that may crop up. And I'm saying at this point, I think the fix is fine. The language, thank you, John, and Tom, is, I think, going to make everybody aware that there are issues here. And among them would be that we've yet to resolve what the ridgeline issues and policies will be in some future time, more than likely this year, but it could be farther down the time track during general planning. So that's why it troubles me, because it is such a fundamental thing. And I've been exposed too long to all the issues as I've shared with you. So if the language is okay with you and with John, let's just move that we make that adjustment to the resolution and pass it.
Is there a second for that?
Well, I'll second the language. I had a couple other just nitpicks on the resolution.
Oh, sorry to dominate all of the stuff.
Right. So there are other.
So as to the language that Tom suggested, at least as to that language, there was a motion to approve and seconded, but
Yes.
let me just do a couple. These are just
Go
little
ahead.
ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do that.
First of all, on page 3 of 10, under the second paragraph, it starts with section 3, in view of all the evidence. It says the planning commission concludes. I think the correct word is finds, because we're making findings.
Oh, true.
The other question I had down at the bottom of page 3 of 10, the fourth line from the bottom, says with the proposed 13-foot tall retaining wall. Now, as I recall, the retaining wall is kind of a bell curve. So it's not 13 feet across the whole thing. It's only part of it is 13 feet. And I can't remember, did we only grant the variance for the 13-foot portion or for the entire retaining wall?
If I recall, I think we only had to grant it for anything over, what was it? 6 feet.
Okay, so there'll be a 7-foot section and an 8-foot section.
Yes.
We could say
So then it really ought to say,
maximum.
pardon me?
We could say proposed maximum 13-foot tall.
Or with the proposed with a retaining wall up to 13 feet.
I'm not even.
Or maximum's fine. That's actually better.
Or you could take out the feet, because I'm sure that's described elsewhere.
And Jacqueline, that's also on page, the same issue is on page 4 of 10. in the second full paragraph, 4 lines up, where we're talking about therefore granting the variance to allow for construction of a 13-foot tall, you mean a maximum?
Or just say non-conforming or something like that.
Maximum works.
I think maximum works.
Okay.
Then the only other nitpick I had was.
I have a question before you move from that.
Sure.
Will that wording extend? Could they use that wording to extend to the entire wall and not just the section that we focused on last meeting?
Sorry.
I don't think we. need to do
The
that.
answer to that in short is no. Part of the approval is for a specific set of plans that were proposed and conveyed to this commission. And a part of that you're seeing right now on your screen. They're not being approved for something different than those plans.
Okay, just want to be sure of that.
The only other nit is on page 5 of 10. The second paragraph starts in bold, section 4. And it goes on and says, subject to the following agreements, plural, and I only see one agreement. So that should be singular. And I'm only doing these nitpicks because I think we're going to start seeing the same set of resolutions in the future. So we'll get it right on the first one.
Thank you, John. Yes.
Do you have any comments?
No, I don't have any, but maybe you do, maybe Greg does.
No comments.
Well, I have a question of staff. Will we see as a routine in this instance, what the as-built project will look like or be like? Will we have drawings as built ultimately when we're done with this project?
Are you asking if we quote the city collectively or we, the commission?
Well, the city collectively.
Yes.
Is it a policy where we get as-built issues,
Well, Public Works
covered in
would be
paperwork?
Public Works would be in charge of that, and they would need to see at least the final plans and inspect them for sure. I don't know that they'd ask for and then retain on file a set of as-built plans,
Right.
but that I can't answer conclusively because I don't work for that department.
Over these many years, I just noticed that what's built is not always what has been both approved and, completed and occupied or used in some other way. So as long as we're covered so that we have a record of what is actually built there.
Typically,
Otherwise, it could be frankly just the homeowner's responsibility.
typically,
ultimately.
the final approved set of plans would be what's retained by building and safety. If there are any revisions following the planning approval, then it would need to be reviewed by planning, and building and safety will maintain the final set that they build.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, then can we have a motion to approve this with the additional language that John and Tom, whatever came up, formulated, and up regarding the finding, as well as the corrections that John found or made?
Dennis, why don't you make the motion since you made the,
No, I don't want to.
okay, I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? Oh, thankfully, no. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
I just note that it was a unanimous vote on
Yeah, thank you.
or item number 2 on tonight's agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. He's like our reporter. Okay. Now,
Before we go on
Yeah.
to the public hearing items, staff just asked me to suggest the best way to go through public hearing items now that we're in person. And I just suggest that for items number 3 and 4 on the agenda, we hear the staff presentation, and then we have the commissioner's comments for staff on that. Not without deliberations, just questions. Then we have the applicant or the applicant's representative speak, followed by questions for them, followed by the public comment period. And after the public comment period is closed, then we would have deliberations. So that can be moved around a little bit depending on the chair and commission, but that is what I would suggest.
sounds good to me. So let's start with public hearing item number 3 on our agenda, file number APR 2023-002, CUP 2023-001, which I guess means it's the first CUP this year. Request for conditional use permit and administrative plan review for live music and outdoor decor at Rose's Garden Bar, which is in the Summit Shopping Center and Zone Commercial Retail, and it's also in the Scenic Corridor Overlay Zone. So first, we'll start with a report from staff.
Thank you, Chair Harrison. Good evening, Commissioners. First, I want to mention that the project before you tonight was noticed to all property owners within 500 feet of the subject site. It was also posted on the city's website and throughout the city at all required locations, and no public correspondence was received. And again, as mentioned, this is a request for a conditional use permit and an administrative plan review for live music and the installation of permanent outdoor decor and faux foliage for Rose's Garden Bar, which is located at 26787 Agora Road, Suite E1, within the Commercial Retail Zoning District and Scenic Corridor Overlay Zone. Okay, here you can see the aerial map. The subject site is located in the Commercial Retail Zoning District and again in the Scenic Corridor Overlay Zone due to the proximity of the site to the 101 freeway, which is a designated scenic corridor. The site is located in the Summit Shopping Center at the intersection of Lost Hills Road and Agora Road. The area of work is shown with the red arrow in the image here. And you can see that the area of work in particular is not visible from the scenic corridor due to the existing buildings that exist between the area of work and the 101 freeway. Therefore, no scenic corridor permit was required for their scope of work. And I do want to mention on this slide that the aerial imagery that you see here is from 2021. So this does not depict the fact that the existing detached canopy that you can see where the red arrow is already extended to meet the building. So it is currently an attached canopy, and that was already approved under file number APR-2021-012 in December 2021. So that canopy extension is just not shown in the aerial imagery yet. Here we have photographs of the existing site. Again, as mentioned, the canopy extension was already approved and is already constructed. Their scope of work tonight involves new decor and live music within that existing canopy area that you see here. And the proposal before you tonight is a conditional use permit and an administrative plan review for live outdoor music and installation of permanent outdoor decor and faux foliage for the restaurant Rose's Garden Bar. Calabasas Municipal Code Section 17.62.060 requires this project be reviewed by the Planning Commission. Okay, so here we have the proposed site plan. You can see in this image here where I've drawn this green line, my best half circle here, is where the proposed faux greenery will be located at the low walls that surround the patio area. And the greenery will also be installed at the roof overhang. In orange here, this orange square you can see in the middle will be the location of their live music. You can see adjacent to that square where they will have tables when they're not doing live music, and then they will move the tables out of the way and maintain an accessible path of travel when they are planning on doing the live music. And then also in the top left-hand corner, you can see these brown dots are where the existing steel beams are proposed to be wrapped with a faux wood material. Here's their proposed ceiling plan. So you can see there will be 25, well, there are 25 chandeliers that are currently hanging from the steel beams, and you can see those in the photos on this slide as well. Here are the proposed elevations. As mentioned, the canopy extension was already approved in 2021. However, there is a modification that they are proposing due to the fact that the installed material does not match the approved material since it is not watertight. So they will be modifying the canopy to match the material that was approved for them to install. The look is the same. The function is that it will now be watertight and fire resistant. Here we have photos of the proposed patio exterior. You can see the faux wood material that will be wrapping the beams, which I had mentioned and shown on the site plan slide. You can also see the faux greenery and decor that will wrap the edge of the patio cover as well as the low wall. Also behind me tonight, we have a sample of the proposed materials. Thank you, Tom. This photo shows the interior of the patio area. So this is what a patron sitting in the dining area would see. So the design was reviewed by the Architecture Review Panel on March 24th, 2023. The area of work at the subject site is not visible from the designated scenic corridor, and there are no city-imposed architectural design standards for the property. And the ARP recommended approval of the project to the commission. I do want to note that the ARP's recommendation of approval, bless you, did include a suggestion to study the proposed materials to ensure adequate drainage and that there will be compliance with very high fire hazard severity zone requirements. They have provided information on the very high fire hazard severity ratings, and those will be reviewed by the Building and Safety Division for compliance once that's submitted to them.
Thank you.
In regards to their request for a conditional use permit for live music, the city's land use table stipulates that live entertainment shall be allowed in the CR zoning district only via a conditional use permit. The applicant is requesting to offer live music during the weekday dinner hours of 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. And they are requesting to offer live music at any time of the day on the weekends. Performers are to set up within the existing patio space under the existing canopy, and their live music performances will not be amplified. Moving on to the applicable findings for a conditional use permit, the proposed use is conditionally permitted within the subject zoning district and complies with all of the applicable provisions of the development code. The proposed use is consistent with the general plan and any applicable specific plan or master plan. Approval of the conditional use permit for the proposed use is in compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act, and the location and operating characteristics of the proposed use are compatible with existing and anticipated future land uses in the vicinity. Moving on to the findings for an administrative plan review. The proposed project complies with all applicable provisions of the development code. The proposed project is designed or is consistent with the general plan, any applicable specific plan, and any special design theme adopted by the city for the site and the vicinity. The approval of the administrative plan review is in compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act. The proposed structures, signs, site development, grading, and or landscaping are compatible in design, appearance, and scale with existing uses, development, signs, structures, and landscaping for the surrounding area. The site is adequate in size and shape to accommodate the proposed structures, yards, walls, fences, parking, landscaping, and other development features. And lastly, the proposed project is designed to respect and integrate with the existing surrounding natural environment to the maximum extent feasible. The applicant's proposed justification for both the conditional use permit and the administrative plan review findings are attached as Exhibit D to the written staff report. So with that, staff concludes that the proposed outdoor live music is conditionally permitted in the CR zoning district. The Architecture Review Panel recommended approval of the proposed exterior decor. The project is exempt from CEQA review pursuant to Section 15061, subsection B3, and Section 15301, subsection A of the CEQA guidelines. With that, staff recommends that the commission direct staff to prepare a resolution for approval or a resolution for denial of file numbers APR-2023-002 and CUP-2023-001, inclusive of all required findings to support the resolution. Staff is prepared to assist the commission in developing the findings for approval or denial as required. Thank you, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Jacqueline. And I don't know how you read things so quickly, but it's much appreciated. Any questions from the commission? Yes, go ahead.
Jacqueline, one quick question. I see that in the description, there's an indication that the live music may include acoustic guitars, and then it says in an occasional small live band. And I thought I heard you say which would not be amplified.
Correct, according to the statement that the applicant has provided.
And if we go forward with this and you guys draft up the resolution, which includes findings, I would recommend that you include a finding that the music will not be amplified.
Correct. And to that effect, I do want to point out that you have draft conditions of approval in your packets, which are standard conditions of approval. But if the commission did want to include a condition related to limiting or prohibiting amplified music, we can add that as a condition of approval as well.
When I see small live band, I think of amplification normally.
I think of trombones.
Do you? Okay. Well, those can be amplified also.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I had the same question as Commissioner Newell. What kind of music are they proposing? And don't tell me heavy metal.
I just would real quick.
Amplified.
I know that our media support really would like for us to speak in the mics. So I'm just going to ask that Commissioner Leah do likewise. Because I'm not sure. others
Oh,
would
it
have
wasn't
heard his
on. It
question.
wasn't on. Yeah, sorry.
What type of music are they going to feature?
I'm not positive as to the genre. We do have, I want to mention that the applicant, she does have her hand raised. Our architect actually, who's attending on behalf of the business owner, does have her hand raised in the audience.
We can ask them when it's the applicant's time. I think that's more an appropriate question if it wasn't submitted to staff.
Any other questions of staff? No. Okay. Then would the applicant care to speak? Is that what you would like next, Epi? All right.
It's a public hearing. You're gonna open the public hearing, right?
Should we open the public hearing now or wait till?
It's up to you.
It's fine. We
Chair,
can open,
Commissioner.
this is going to be a short public hearing, I predict. So yeah, we can open the public hearing. The next one won't be so short, but.
Oh, let's invite anyone in the audience.
Yeah, I don't, does anybody wish to speak?
Open the hearing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
Okay.
did open it. Does anybody wish to speak? I think they're all here on item 4. So I don't, so maybe they're online and, video conferencing and I can't see who's here. So,
Give it a minute and then we'll
okay,
wait for staff to sort it out.
okay.
And then
So we have people who are participating by Zoom. I have them shown here as attendees, and if they raise their hand, I can see that. We also have people who are interested in this item who are in the room, including the applicant.
I believe that the chair invited anyone in the audience, and we can extend that invitation again who wants to speak on this item.
Well, they're all sitting over there and so they're pretty quiet.
Excluding the applicant, and then afterwards we'll give the applicant a chance to speak.
I've allowed the architect, who understands his name Kendra, to speak.
Yes, as far as genre goes, it's mostly, the client proposed to mostly have acoustic guitars. And the reason we say small band is because sometimes there might be an acoustic guitar with a singer, but nothing crazier than that.
I mean, I'd like to point out just for the public that this is a spa and not just a cafe. There are treatment rooms. I can't imagine that they want any kind of loud music.
Right. It won't be any type of festival. It's just to set the mood.
Thank you. Kendra, is that what your name was?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Any questions for the architect or the applicant? No, not from here. Not, it's not. Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Actually, it's kind of a functional issue. If there is a need to allow for amplified music at some point in the future, do they apply for a permit from the city?
It depends on how the commissioners would like the conditions of approval to be worded. If you were to choose to add as a condition, no amplified music, then they would need to come back to the city for an amended CUP if you were to add that as a condition.
And the reason I bring it up is that even though the Leonis Adobe and the Sagebrush Cantina are not in the city of Calabasas and they're under LA city regulations, we had an opportunity last October to have the Wallflowers Band. And I guess it wasn't the Rolling Stones, but it was Robbie Krieger and
The Doors.
The Doors, and we had 1,200 people show up to the parking lot there. It was a fabulous event. And they did have to get permits from the city of LA, to deal with that. But in the case that any of our entertainment venues like this want to do something out of the ordinary and it's acceptable to the people who were there and the community, is there a procedure we have in order to allow that to happen?
If I could make a suggestion, if you would like to allow it on a case-by-case basis for occasions like that, you may want to add a condition to the effect of no amplified music is permitted unless otherwise allowed via a temporary use permit, subject to approval by the planning division, something along those lines.
Oh, that would be good. So I certainly wouldn't want to have to come back here.
Yeah.
Right. A temporary use permit would be a director level
Okay.
approval. So that way they could,
Is that okay?
if that's what the commission would like to do, we could allow them via temporary use permit to be reviewed and issued by staff.
And the advantage of that approach is then code enforcement if a complaint comes in, has parameters of record that they can check against and see if they're adhering to the TUP requirements or not.
Okay, so you want to say that? Go ahead. Oh, Bob, go ahead.
I have a concern with their request to be able to play the music whenever they want. I don't think that's appropriate.
You mean the amplified music or just music?
Other than what they talk about when they, whatever they do, could be the band, it could be anything, but they want to be able to do it whenever they want.
Yes, the commission could add hours, maximum hours that their amplified music could be played till. I'll leave the hours up to you.
See, I'm not concerned about this. There's there are no residents there. This is far from residential, and who's it going to bother? The people who go to Fernsop or something, or which is the Lebanese, bakery next door, or like my son or Erewhon. I mean, I just don't think it's going to bother anyway. I think it's nothing but an amenity to me, but. I can see the temporary use permit for amplified, right? But I'm not concerned as much about.
Does anybody know whether the landlord has any CC&Rs essentially, or operating principles that might need to be respected here?
But no, but I was going to recommend if the commission wanted to look at least the spirit of the municipal code. I'm looking at the noise ordinance section of the Title 17, and it delineates what would be considered daytime versus nighttime, protecting noise at nighttime and allowing a more, loud environment during the daytime. And those hours for daytime are between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. and nighttime is between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. So maybe the consideration is to prohibit or not allow the music during the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m.
Again, I'm not even sure they're open then. This is a spa, so.
But we do have to keep in mind that a conditional use permit will run with the land, and whether it's them today or a different business owner tomorrow, they'll be subject to the
I
same
see.
conditions.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we should stipulate that, they conform with that ordinance and those requirements that the city has in place. I think that's a good idea.
In the event the commission would direct staff to prepare a resolution of approval, we'll be sure to incorporate that.
All right, are we ready to close the public hearing and do all of that? Okay, then let's close the public hearing. And does anybody want to make a motion regarding this?
I'll move that we ask the staff to prepare a resolution of approval with the comments at least addressed, if not actually, influencing the language of the limitations that are currently being stated, to allow for as much potential success as we can ensure over there.
Is there a second for that?
I'll second
it. Commissioner Leah? Okay. I can hear you better because you're right here. So
I had the mic on.
all right. Any further discussion? Yes.
Just one quick question. I noticed in the packet, there is an exhibit D, which are findings submitted by the applicant, which I think is a great idea. What is the staff's plan to, what are you going to do with these in these cases now that you're going to prepare resolutions?
We've always brought what I call fully cooked resolutions to the commission in the past, and we intend to do no different in this approach. The only difference is one of timing, that we won't bring that kind of resolution to the commission until the commission has directed staff to do so. So we do want the applicants to be aware of what the finding requirements are and to do their best effort to craft their own set of findings. We think it's incumbent upon them to be able to present their own project in that way. And that way staff is not in a position of presenting one side of the issue. We'll do the factual analysis on the front end, invite the commission to direct us one way or the other, and then we'll bring a fully cooked set of resolution with the findings. Shall I say, I'm trying to be kind to the applicant here, a little more robust than what you see here.
Okay, so the findings that are proposed by an applicant may help inform you when preparing the findings for us to review.
That's correct. That's a great way to put it.
Okay. Thank you. Because I mean, the reason I raise this is there's a lot of stuff in the proposed findings by the applicant that I would strike. I'm not blaming them. It's really not appropriate finding language, but there's a lot of good stuff in it too. So I'm glad that you don't just, that you use it to the extent you can.
To that, I would add, if there's a specific point that was raised by the applicant in their findings, their justification of the findings that the commission wants to make sure we incorporate in our final resolution back, then let us know. But we'll rely on both direction from the commission and if there's anything else you want us to add in there.
In case the audience is wondering, this is a new approach for us, so that's why we're talking about it. We're doing it differently than we did it before. Any other comments about this? Oh, I already got a second. So I do want to say this, to me, it'll be a lovely amenity for the center. And so with that, I guess we can vote. All those in favor? Aye. And yes.
Just note again, item number 3, the APR 2023-002 and the CUP 2023-001 request for conditional use permit and administrative plan review for live music and the installation of a permanent outdoor decor and foot foliage at Rose's Garden Bar was approved unanimously by the planning commission.
Thank you. All right, now we come to item 4. Which is a file number SPR site plan review 2022-006. It's request for site plan review to build an 1,833 square foot addition to the single family residence located at 5222 Dante's View Drive in Calabasas. Are you leading us now?
Yeah.
Okay, so let that go ahead.
Commissioner Leah, can you explain that you're recusing yourself from this item?
I'm sorry.
Can you explain that you're recusing yourself from this item?
Recusing myself, although I will be testifying.
Sorry, can you turn your microphone on?
Because I live within the 500-foot zone.
Did you hear that?
Okay. Can you repeat it? Sorry, I think your microphone was off.
Okay.
Just for the audience members at home. Sorry.
I am recusing myself because I live within the 500-foot zone. However, I will be testifying on the public comment portion.
Okay, so hopefully somebody will remind me that you want to testify. Although I have your card here, so
Okay.
we'll go looking
You
through
can
it.
read it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you. So we'll see you soon. Where was I? Okay, so we're going to begin as usual with a report from staff. You really should be doing those commercials where you do the legal disclaimer at the end. It's amazing. Oh, does he believe? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's not a leave, but he'll come back, but he gets to come back and speak as a public, as a member of the public. Let me get back to your computer because mine was so dark I could hardly see it. I'm sorry, mine screen is so dark.
Mr. Chair, are you and the fellow commissioners prepared to? She is. Are we ready?
We are ready.
He's left the room, so.
Okay. Thank you, commissioners. A few things before we start. I want to make a few corrections. Number 1, the public hearing notice that was mailed out listed the Oaks as the applicant by mistake. That was a typo from a prior project template. The correct applicant is Miguel Loaiza, who is the engineer for the project, and the corrected notice has been posted on the city's website and also throughout the city at all required locations. Next, as pointed out by Chair Harrison, in the staff report, the owner of record, there's one owner, Mr. Levy. On page 2 of the staff report, I list owners plural. It should be owner singular. Mr. Levy, again, is the owner of record. Next, one correction to the home comparison of the technical appendix regarding the adjacent property to the north at 5228 Dante's View. Assessor's data for this property had listed the square footage as 5,618. Since then, staff has gone through the building records for that adjacent property, and based on the building records, the assessor's data appears to be incorrect. So the corrected square footage in the home comparison table is 4,740 square feet for 5228 Dante's View. And I'll show the corrected home comparison table in my presentation, but I wanted to mention that correction to the staff report up front. Okay, next, I want to mention that this project was noticed to all property owners within 500 feet of the subject site. The notice was posted on the city's website and throughout the city at all required locations. Staff did receive several items of public correspondence, and those have been distributed to the commissioners and also posted on the city's website. Again, this is a request for a site plan review to construct a 1,833 square foot addition to the existing two-story single-family residence located at 5222 Dante's View Drive within the residential single-family zoning district. In this slide, you can see an aerial map. The project site is located in the Saratoga Hills neighborhood, which is again within the residential single-family zoning district. Just a little bit more of a close-up view of the site in an aerial view. This is an interior lot of approximately 12,110 square feet. The site is currently developed with an existing two-story single-family residence, an existing garage that has been converted to an ADU under a prior permit, as well as exterior improvements such as a swimming pool, landscape, and hardscape. So these are photos of the existing residence. As can be observed in the photos of the site, the residence is in need of repair, and the property, the front and rear yard, are in need of maintenance, which the applicant is proposing to accomplish as part of the proposed project. The proposal includes construction of a 909 square foot addition to the first floor, 883 square foot addition to the second floor, and conversion of an existing 41 square foot attic space into habitable space at an existing two-story single-family residence for total addition size of 1,833 square feet. The project also involves a comprehensive interior and exterior remodel, as well as new trellises and balconies at the rear of the residence. And Calabasas Municipal Code Section 17.62.020 requires this project to be reviewed by the Planning Commission. On this slide, we have the proposed site plan. The areas highlighted in yellow show the areas of second floor addition, and the area highlighted in green is the area of both first and second floor addition. And you can also see on this slide the existing ADU at the ground level where the garage has been converted. That's 597 square feet. You can also see in this slide the new areas of balcony at the rear and of new trellis at the rear. And on this slide, you can also see at the front, there are areas of proposed new landscaping at the front and at the back as well. I cut off the legend here, but all around here, this is all proposed new landscaping. Here's the proposed first floor plan. The area of addition at the first floor is shown in blue. This is going to be located at the rear of the residence, and it's extending that rear wall of the house out. In the proposed second floor plan, you can see the areas of addition highlighted in yellow. There's an area of addition of a new playroom and a conversion of attic space to habitable space at the front of the residence. And other than that, the bulk of the addition is going to be located at the rear of the residence. You can also see the new balconies and trellises here. On this slide, I do want to note that the property is legal non-conforming in its current condition due to the existing 5-foot side setback on the south side of the property. And as you can see from this image, there's no new area of addition in that south side setback area of the property. They're going to be maintaining that as existing non-conforming, legal non-conforming attic space. Here we have the proposed elevations. Again, the main area of addition that you'll be able to see from the front of the residence, if you can see my cursor, are these new windows above the front door. This is an area of addition above the existing porch, and this will be a playroom. And then from the rear east elevation, you can see the area of the 1,600 square foot addition at the rear of the residence, as well as the associated balconies and trellis. And the proposed project will maintain the same architectural style of the existing residence, which will be a white stucco exterior. The existing residence will be refaced with a smooth white stucco, as well as a charcoal shingle roof to be repaired and replaced. And here you can see the elevations looking from the north, the left of the house, and looking from the south, the right of the house. So the architecture review panel reviewed the proposed project on March 24th, 2023. The subject site is not within a designated scenic corridor, and there are no city-imposed architectural design standards for the neighborhood. The ARP found that the proposed project is compatible with the aesthetics of the surrounding neighborhood and recommended approval of the project to the commission. I do want to note that the ARP's recommendation included a few suggestions. One was to study the existing height of the residence to ensure it was portrayed accurately on the plans. Next was to study the proposed window at the front facade addition over the porch. And last was to consider adding architectural elements in order to create differentiation between the first and second floor at the front of the residence. The applicant did take the first two suggestions into consideration by ensuring that the existing height was depicted correctly and ensuring that the window at the front is being proposed. The owner has elected to not modify the front facade to incorporate the ARP suggestion, choosing instead to maintain a more simplistic look at the front of the house. This table shows a comparison of homes in the immediate vicinity with data obtained from the LA County Assessor's Office. Home sizes listed within this table do not include garages or converted garage spaces, i.e. ADUs. This is just a comparison of single-family residence to single-family residence for an apples-to-apples comparison. I want to mention the correction to the home comparison chart within the staff report is corrected on this slide. So as you can see for 5228 Dantes View Drive, the correct square footage per the building records is 4,740 square feet for a total FAR of 0.31. That changes the average home size to 3,048. So this is the correct average. And then it did not change the average FAR. So the corrected numbers are 3,048 square feet for the average, 4,740 for 5228 Dantes View, and then 0.31 for the FAR of that property. So home sizes in the vicinity range from 2,205 square feet to 4,740 square feet. With the proposed additions, the residence will total 5,005 square feet. Floor area ratios in the vicinity range from 0.22 to 0.34, with the average being 0.27. With the proposed project, the proposed FAR of the subject site will be 0.41. So with the proposed additions, the residence will be above the range of home sizes in the vicinity, as well as above the range of FARs in the vicinity. So here we have some photos of the homes in the neighborhood. In the top left corner, we have the home across the street at 5219 Dantes View Drive. In the top right corner, we have the other home across the street at 5227 Dantes View Drive. And then in the bottom left corner, we have the home to the north at 5228 Dantes View. And in the bottom right corner, we have the home to the south at 5218 Dantes View. Moving on to the applicable findings for a site plan review. The proposed project complies with all applicable provisions of the development code. The proposed project is consistent with the general plan, any applicable specific plan, and any special design theme adopted by the city for the site and vicinity. The approval of the site plan review is in compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act. The proposed standards, signs, site development, grading, and/or landscaping are compatible in design, appearance, and scale with existing uses, development, signs, structures, and landscaping for the surrounding area. The site is adequate in size and shape to accommodate the proposed structures, yards, walls, fences, parking, landscaping, and other development features. And the proposed project is designed to respect and integrate with the existing surrounding natural environment to the maximum extent feasible. And in regards to the above findings, the applicant's proposed justification for the site plan review findings are attached as Exhibit B to the written staff report. Staff concludes that the proposed project will not alter the existing use of the subject site, which is an allowed use in the RS zoning district, that the existing residence is legal nonconforming in regards to the south side setback, and the proposed project will maintain the existing nonconformity. The proposed project meets all applicable development standards for the RS zoning district. With the proposed additions, the dwelling will exceed the range of home sizes in the vicinity and will also result in a FAR greater than that of existing FARs in the immediate vicinity. The ARP recommended approval of the project. And lastly, the project is exempt from CEQA review pursuant to section 15061, subsection B3, and section 15301, subsection E1 of the California CEQA guidelines. So with that, staff concludes that the commission directs staff to prepare a resolution for approval or a resolution of denial for file number SPR-2022-006, inclusive of all required findings to support the resolution. Staff is prepared to assist the commission in developing the findings for approval or for denial as required. Thank you, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you again, Jacqueline. Are there any questions for staff? John?
Questions, Jacqueline, on the residence. Excuse me, two questions on the residence. It is 5228. The one that is modified in the report now to say 4,740 square feet. Does that property have an ADU?
Not to our knowledge.
Okay. And then the second question I have is, do you know what elements that did the ARP propose elements that were then rejected by the applicant, or did they just say, come back with elements?
The ARP's recommendation of approval included a suggestion for them to consider. They posed a variety of design elements that they could potentially consider. I believe one of them was maybe a Romeo and Juliet balcony or using a different material to differentiate between the first and second floors. So they did recommend approval with that suggestion, not as a requirement for their approval.
Okay, I'm sorry. I understand it's not a requirement, but I'm trying to understand did they actually come up with real ideas that were then rejected by the applicant for whatever good or bad reason? I don't know yet. Romeo and Juliet balcony, different materials, anything else?
Something to separate the identity of the top floor from the bottom floor.
The material difference.
A material or cornices or something that they wanted something to separate.
Correct.
Someone
To avoid the flat facade.
Thank you. That's all.
Greg, any questions for staff?
No questions?
And Dennis, any questions for staff? No, I don't have any. Well, I do have a question for staff. I mean, I went to the site last Saturday, and the first thing I noticed was how the condition of the property, which is really an eyesore. And has overgrown weeds, a dead tree. And so maybe this is for you, Effie. Even in the pictures that we were sent of the property 3 years ago, it wasn't as bad as it is today. And it was a tear down then. It was listed as a tear down. So did anyone contact code enforcement? Has code enforcement been out there to abate this nuisance?
Whether somebody in the neighborhood might have, I can't answer to that, but I can tell you that staff, we certainly have internally had discussions with code enforcement about it, and we are cooperating with code enforcement. I will point out, however, that because we have an active project where the property owner is clearly intending to address everything on that property, but to do it as part of a broader project, code enforcement is not inclined to open up an enforcement case because this is already going through a process for remediation of the problem.
But it's not going through any process to remediate the problem.
Sure.
There's no landscaping plan in this plan. And the landscaping in the front is horrendous. I mean, it's like several feet high and dead tree and so forth. So there's nothing in this project that addresses the pool, which is a sludge and mosquitoes and everything. And it doesn't address the landscaping mess. It doesn't, so this is a nuisance a public nuisance as far as I could see when I visited it. And your picture isn't even accurate because what I saw last Saturday was far worse than the photo in here. So my question to the city attorney is, what can they do? Can the city pursue this, try to abate the nuisance? Can the city condemn the property or put it under a health and safety receivership or something? Because clearly this owner has let this property become a public nuisance.
Yeah, I mean, there is a process for the city to condemn public nuisances or pursue some of the options you mentioned. That would not happen at the planning commission level.
Right. Okay.
So,
no, it's not part of this application.
Right. Which I think is what we should focus on tonight.
But I'm concerned because normally we get applications with a landscape plan. I've never seen one without one. And this has no landscape plan, no pool plan. So there's no saying when this nuisance will be abated or even addressed. It may even get worse.
If I may jump in,
Yeah.
our municipal code does not require a landscape plan to be submitted for a residential structure. So
But
it
we always get them.
always may be, but
Right.
what I'm letting the commission know is that because it's not a requirement, it was not submitted as part of this. Now, this is there was a third option effectively for the commission tonight, which is to direct the applicant to come back with a revision or something that's different than what was presented to the commission tonight. And if that includes a request for a landscape plan, then that could be at the request of the commission. Code
Yeah, so I'm
enforcement-
concerned, so we'll get there later when we have discussions, but I am concerned that because there's no landscape plan, they could go do all this remodeling and the nuisance could get worse and worse and worse.
Unless that's built into either a condition of approval or they return with a revised project, including a landscape plan. But at this point, getting back to what was said earlier by Tom, code enforcement is going to hold off on pursuing anything until a decision is rendered at the planning commission level. If that decision is approval, then in theory, that approval could include the abatement and cleaning up the property. If the decision is a denial, therefore, obviously, that wouldn't, any sort of abatement or cleaning up would not be part of that decision. At that point, code enforcement could then pursue its normal remedy.
And
I'd like to
to
point out one thing on your screen right now. It does say proposed site plan, but I want to point out that this includes the proposed landscaping. There's a legend that actually went with this, but in the effort to blow this up for the benefit of anybody seeing the slide, the legend got cut off, but there are different plant types that correspond to the different patterns on that diagram. So that does incorporate a landscape palette and plan. There is no intent on the part of this property owner to just keep things as they are.
Right, I didn't see that on the plans we were given. And also, I mean, this property needs a new driveway. It needs a lot of, and the pool obviously needs to be addressed. They even admit that. But because it's not tied in with this application, we could have this nuisance get worse and worse and worse. So, but you're saying we could put conditions in.
If we put that,
well, I would just note that
This is for later.
right.
This is the project as shown here. The project as shown and presented includes the new landscaping and a complete driveway and a complete walkway to the ADU. Everything is shown here of what they intend to accomplish, which addresses not only obviously what they're asking for in terms of an addition, but also remedying the other issues there. The pool, they're going to remodel. They indicate everything that they intend to do here.
It's a timeline. That's the problem. Even if we granted approval, this could start in 6 months or a year at the rate they're, things are going. So meanwhile, the neighborhood is stuck with a public nuisance. And that's just getting worse and worse and worse.
I do fear we're starting that the commission is starting to deliberate and we have not yet opened
I
our
was
closed
asking
public hearing.
questions about, so we can do that later when we're
Right.
talking about
Just
conditions.
one additional comment. As the director mentioned, a landscape plan is not required. So if the commission does decide to direct the staff to do a resolution of approval, then that could be submitted as a condition in the resolution of approval. If the commission directs staff to prepare a resolution of denial, that cannot be one of the required findings because it's not required by the code. So just important part as part of the deliberations process later on.
Okay,
But,
thank you, Epi. Any other questions of
Additional
staff? Go ahead.
And this is not deliberation, it's a factual question, I hope. I thought I heard staff say that the overall problems, which appear to be admitted to some extent with the property, the structures thereon, are to be fully addressed in the project that's before us tonight. Did I understand you correctly? Staff.
Correct.
And where is it represented factually that all of the problems with the property are so addressed? Okay. Besides this picture we have on the screen.
That's a great question. So we'll start with, we've already started with that picture. So in terms of site plan and the surrounding elements, softscape, landscape, hardscape, the pool, et cetera, that's shown on this sheet. And if Jacqueline will go back to the first floor plan proposed. And we pull that up, you should be able to see, hopefully, that this shows an entirely reconfigured interior compared to the existing. And those plans were one of the exhibits to the staff report, Exhibit A. Jacqueline can probably point you to the corresponding sheets in terms of comparing the existing floor plan to the proposed new floor plan. To accomplish this, you basically have to gut the building, and that's their intent. Okay. This will be an entirely new kitchen. new living area. Everything you're seeing here, except for the ADU, which was already created, that part is not being touched again. It already exists in a new form, which was a garage conversion. And in the second floor, you also have a very thorough wall-to-wall remodel that will be going on where walls are being moved, replaced, bathrooms improved, et cetera. So the structure inside now will be virtually new. The roof also, by the way, will be entirely new.
Okay, so there is no narrative. There are these various slides that addresses the problems that apparently exist. I'm not trying to do anyone's job for them. I'm just trying to understand.
I'll give you one
I would
example.
do it differently, but that's me.
I mean, I'll give you a more specific example, looking back at the first floor plan. If we look at that, the rear facing wall, which will include a new grand sliding door so that you can integrate the outdoors and indoors. That entire wall will have to be reconstructed. Some of it will be new, but the existing wall will be reconstructed because you're going to need basically the existing walls where the dining table is shown there. So all of that will be new. And right now, if you were to go and walk in the backyard, you will see that there are problems with that rear wall and an enclosure next to it. It'll have to really come down and be rebuilt if they were to keep it. But they're not going to keep it. They're going to do this project instead. So they'll demo that porch kind of structure, and they're going to rebuild this space to include the addition. All of this is new interior space to go with the new exterior space.
And one other question, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
of council. Because I want to think about this when we have the public hearing, in connection with findings that need to be made with respect to the size of a home in connection with the proposal, and we have to make a finding in that regard. Is the square footage of an ADU, can it be, should it not be thought of, included in the analysis of the size of the project relative to the neighborhood, for example?
I think the easiest answer here is that, ADUs don't come before the planning commission and are actually, in fact, barred under the government code from coming before the planning commission. They're completely processed at a ministerial level. I would say that the planning commission should only focus on the project in front of it. And since the ADU is not part of the project in front of it, that it should not be part of the findings.
And just to elaborate on that specific question, any of the other homes that are on that list, let's say it's a 3,000 square foot home today, would be permitted to build in 1,200 square foot ADU without coming before the planning commission. So the best apples to apples comparison is to not consider the ADU.
And I know, Commissioner, you asked about one of the addresses. I think it was 5228 Dante's View, and whether that one had an ADU. But and this is really more of a question for staff. But I don't. In those FAR calculations in that chart, I believe none of them. I don't believe staff looked at whether there were ADUs in any of them, and whether that changed the math or not. So not really part of what's in front of us tonight.
Thank you.
If nothing else of staff, do you want to bring the applicant up? Or is it?
We do have the applicant and the
Is he here or online or on the?
in the audience.
Oh.
We have Miguel
Oh.
and then Jessica, representative on behalf
Well,
of the
we
owner.
have the owner's wife here, but I didn't meet the architect engineer, Mr. Loaiza, is it? Oh, can you come up? So just tell us your name and your city of residence, and then if you have any comments, and then we may have questions.
Okay, my name is Miguel Loaiza, and I live in Chatsworth, and my office is in Chatsworth as well.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions of the architect?
Yes.
The applicant, I should say.
But he is the architect?
He's the
applicant.
It says engineer, but I guess you're the
I'm the
architect.
designer and
The designer.
engineer.
Okay, designer. and
Designer,
All
engineer.
right, we'll get it right.
Engineer.
Sir, did you understand some suggestions from the architectural review panel with respect to the additional elements that they were proposing?
Yes,
And did you consider those?
of course we did.
And did you reject their suggestions with respect to the Romeo and Juliet balcony and the material differences and the cornices and all that stuff?
Yes, we did. And
Could you explain why?
regarding the Romeo and Juliet proposal suggestion, it's the reason they wanted us to do that was because initially that room was dedicated, there was supposed to be a closet. So their concern was that people walking on the street would be able to see clothes hanging from the window. So he suggested, well, maybe if you just change the window to a Romeo and Juliet balcony type thing, that might do the trick. I spoke with the owner about it, and he decided that actually he wanted that to be a kid's playroom next to the bedroom. And so the closet or the whole idea of putting a Romeo and Juliet balcony no longer applied. And also it wasn't really, no houses in the neighborhood has a Romeo and Juliet. The architectural features we didn't feel it was really necessary, and the owner didn't like it either.
What about the other suggestions?
Okay, the bottom and top differentiation, he suggested putting corbels or something in between the two floors to differentiate the one and the other. There's not an opportunity, the floor joists don't stick out, or putting corbels in there. He wanted a simplistic design, the owner. And so we follow that, and it was in line with the original design of the house as well. And all of the houses in the neighborhood don't have any differentiation between the first and the second floor. So we decided that that wouldn't be implemented.
Were there any other suggestions that you rejected from the ARP?
I think there was one last one, in the rear part of the house, they suggested we had gable roofs coming from side to side, and they figured they thought it might be a good idea just to keep it like front to back gable type roof. And the owner just looked at it, and he wanted a different look, because otherwise you would just have a flat, long roof with, nothing on it. So they prefer to have the gables on the two sides of the rear part of the house for aesthetic purposes. And besides, that cannot be seen from the outside in any case, but that was the other recommendation we considered, but did not implement.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions of the applicant? No?
Yeah, I'd like to know, thank you for, coming in, provide us the opportunity to talk. Are there renters on the property now?
The property is empty.
Are there plans, in fact, to use the ADU as a rental income producing facility?
I have I don't think that's I will let the owner perhaps, speak for that. We haven't discussed what he's going to do with that, but I guess that's an option of an ADU, right?
And are any of the new additions that are being proposed going to accommodate additional potential, renter occupants in this place?
Yeah, we discussed that with the owner, and he's got 5 children. This is for him and his family, and he doesn't plan to rent out any rooms, to my knowledge.
Is the ADU currently being used?
It is empty. It has been remodeled, and we have beautiful pictures of the first-class job that the owner has done. And I guess he has that option. ADU is not, it's an option to rent it out, as per code. And whether he plans to do it or not, I guess that's his option. I have no knowledge of that.
The new laws do allow for, a good deal of accommodation in dealing with new development. And I'm curious about what plans might be made for a number of vehicles. Again, I don't think we're in a position to constrain anybody from parking anywhere in the building or on the street for that matter. But if there were a significant number of additional occupants because of the size and the intentions of the project, it would be important to know, and for the neighbors to know, frankly, if there was going to be that significant amount of increase in occupancy.
Well, again, I think the current requirements are that as long as you have space for 2 parking spaces on the driveway, that complies with the code, and so we're going by that.
That is the law. I understand. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. I've got a couple questions. Okay. One is on the plan, the laundry room is upstairs, but I also see like something called a hall downstairs that looks like it has laundry facilities there. Is that also a laundry room?
Trying to remember, the laundry room is. Do you have the floor plans there? I'm dealing with several projects at a time, and I did this a
I have
while ago.
up on the screen right now, I have the hall that.
So if you look at the hall, look at the left, so the left side of the hall, you'll see like some squares. Is that also, are those laundry facilities as well? Which wouldn't surprise me since it's off at the kitchen and on the way to the maid's room.
That was not required by the owners, so but that's a possibility that I guess he could make that a laundry facility.
So it could be, okay. To me, this looks like a 7-bedroom, 8-bathroom house. And you're saying the ADU is empty, but the car that's parked in front all the time, the CRV with the same license plate that was in the photos when the house was sold, and we got that as correspondence. That car is still there all the time. So who's there?
I just, if anyone speaking in the audience, could you come up to the microphone? So thank you.
So sorry, my voice is kind of hoarse, but that vehicle is going to be removed.
Can you identify yourself also?
I'm Jessica Levy. My husband is the owner of the property.
But whose car is that?
It was
there before it was sold.
The owner before his vehicle, but it's not drivable, but it will be removed. It is going
So
to be
she
removed.
left it there and she doesn't live there?
No, the house is not being used by anybody right now. I mean, it's empty. I need to have her vehicle removed. It's not drivable. Can't be moved. It has front damage. It's not drivable, so I need to have it towed.
So you mean she left it there 3 years ago when this house was sold? And
It was left. Yeah,
and you never moved it?
It's something that needs to be removed by her family. We're in the process of trying to get them to get it off the property.
Oh, okay. That's just, okay.
Yeah, it will be removed. I promise you that it's not going to be an eyesore when we're done with it. It's going to be something people will enjoy walking by.
I know,
will want to walk by.
I understand. No, I understand. It's
Yes.
just a little unusual to have the previous owner's car there.
You know, it
For
will
over,
be removed. I
3 years.
promise. That's something we're working on, and I hope to have that taken care
Okay.
of as soon as possible.
One of the correspondents we had said that she lives there. So,
The woman isn't on and off. She's not always there. I mean, there's she's there every once in a while, going in and out. She still has her stuff to take out of there. She'll still have some of her stuff there. So,
and whose dogs, and some of the correspondents talk about dogs attacking the neighbor's dogs. Whose dogs are those?
So let me explain to you what's going on. And it's not something I really wanted to get into, but since you're mentioning it, the neighbors on the right of me, as you can see, the vinyl fence there is brand new. It is a company that they hired and they chose and we went along with. Their dogs, they have 3 dogs over there, which I want to let you know, bark until 10 o'clock at night outside from 6 a.m. to 10 in the evening. You know that the homes are on a hill and one is above the other. Their dogs are digging from their side under the fence and getting into the yard. So, I mean, I do have a picture to show you. We have the vinyl fence splitting us. There's the pool area and there is another fence. Their dog dug under, went through the pool area, through another fence, and the dogs got their dog. So, I mean,
But you have dogs on the premises?
when she's there, the dogs are
I'd like
there.
to just remind the commission that if we could stick with questions that are relevant to the specific project. at
No,
hand.
I understand. I'm just,
No, I think it
this is in the correspondence.
First complained about that.
Yeah.
It was something that I was prepared to let you guys know about. I mean, this neighbor,
But do
I mean, it's
you
not my
have-
responsibility to keep their dogs out of my
Okay,
yard. I'm
but
sorry, but
you have dogs on the premises.
they're not my dogs. They belong to the woman. When she comes over there, her dogs are there.
So that's all I'm asking. It's a strange situation where the previous owner still basically is there, but doesn't, so.
But it's
okay.
also important to know that it's not like this structure has been determined to be uninhabitable or has been red tagged. So the fact that someone may or may not be living there is generally irrelevant because it is a certified or there's a final certificate of occupancy
Right.
issued for both the main structure.
It
and
just
the
goes,
ADU
it goes,
and both
excuse me,
can be
it goes to
occupied.
credibility of what's going on. So anyway, let's proceed. So we don't have any more questions, but you'll be able to speak.
Yes, of course.
But I just
That's
want,
why I'm here.
we're just doing
Okay.
questions. So, yes, go ahead.
I just want to know how long you've owned the property.
It's a little over 3 years, I believe. About
3
3
years?
years, yeah, something like that.
Thanks.
Now, I've done, and I mean, I would love to show you pictures of the ADU, just so you guys can get an idea of what we want this property to look like inside and out. So, I mean, if you guys would love to look at those, I would love to show you the beautiful kitchen that's in there, the bathroom, the bedroom, everything that's in there. I would love for you guys to see it. You can see what we plan on doing to this property. Like I said a few minutes ago, I mean, I want this property will be the gem of the neighborhood. I want this to be something people enjoy walking by. And please, when the property is finished, I would love for you guys to come and see it. It would be my pleasure for you guys to see this property,
All right.
beautiful outside and inside.
Thank you. What's next, Epi, after the questions of the applicants? Then can we open the public hearing now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the applicant expressed an interest maybe in a presentation, but if that's not
All right.
something that the commission
Well,
was interested in, but it's
Jessica Levy is the owner's wife. So she's got a card here, so you can speak if you want.
Yeah,
We're
I
in
mean-
an open, we're now in the public hearing. So go
I mean,
ahead.
I have a suggestion if it would make it for you guys, because yes, until we get your approval and the work is started, I understand the front yard does look messy. I mean, what I can do ourselves maybe is possibly move things around there, clean it up a little bit until the actual work is done in the front yard. I mean, I don't mind going and having it cleaned up so it looks better.
Well, can you like just mow all the weeds down and get
Yeah,
rid of the
that's what I
dead
think we
tree?
can- all those trees are not planted that are there. They're all.
But one's in dead in a pot. So these are like.
I can
fire
have those
hazards.
removed. I
Okay.
can have that cleaned up somewhat so it looks nicer. Until the project is started and the landscaping portion is done.
And can you
That way-
submit a landscaping plan together with this so that we know that it's going to get done?
I mean, it is in there from, I mean, Tom and Jacqueline.
We just, that doesn't, okay. But it's, all right.
This is what we were asked for. We were asked to show this, and this is what we gave. I guarantee you that I'm not going to make that house beautiful and then leave the front and backyard the way that it is.
So like one of your neighbors across the street and to the right has a really nice front yard that they redid. I don't know. It's one of your supporters. I can't remember.
I believe my yard is going to look nicer than that. I can
Okay.
guarantee you.
All right. I just wanted to make sure because
Not trying to say that to anybody else, but I can guarantee
Okay.
you after this, you guys are going to appreciate the work that we have done on the outside.
I mean, I understand during construction, it's going to be
Yeah.
a mess,
You don't
but
start with
Yeah.
the
Right.
landscaping
Right.
before you do everything else, because then it's just going to get toppled over and ruined.
and do you plan on putting in a new driveway?
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. Because that's in bad
Like
shape.
Tom was mentioning to you, new driveway, then the walkway to the ADU, everything in the front of the house, the sides of the house and the back of the house is going to be complete. Everything is going to be done. It is going to be a brand new.
I have, as long as you're up there, let me ask you another question. On the trellises and the lattice work that you're putting in,
Mhm.
I hope they're not made of wood.
I don't believe so. I think he knows.
They're
Yeah,
going to be required to meet the very high fire severity zone requirement per the building code.
Okay, because I went to that presentation at the Water District with the firescape expert, and he said that leads fire right into your house.
Everything
So
will be
when
done.
you attach it to your house, it can't be wood. It has to be metal
A
or
certain
vinyl.
type of wood may be permitted, but again,
No.
it'll meet the building code requirement at the highest fire safety level.
Well, I just hope it's not wood. It's either metal or vinyl.
Everything will be done in a safe way that will not cause
Okay.
any.
Well, it's for your safety.
Oh,
'Cause
yes,
I
of
mean,
course, they're my children. I have 5 young kids.
right.
So, and I
Okay.
honestly can't wait to come into the neighborhood. I love the park over there. And bringing younger generation to the community as well. I mean, it's nice that young children laughing, the laughter of kids, new families and
Would you
just making
be,
things better.
okay, would you be willing to put in some kind of separation between the first story and the second story? The original house had that. Unlike, sorry, that's not true what you said. It was a clear separation, and most of the houses are clearly separated between the first and second story, so you don't have a massive facade. And
On the rear of the property?
no, the front of the property facing the street, what people look at, it's all the other old houses, original houses, maybe not your Spanish one next door because it's newer, have a separation between the first and second floor to avoid the massive
Well,
facade.
there's a lot of them. If you go around the neighborhood, there's a lot of them that are identical to the look that's there right now without being touched, that don't have that separation. I think that most of the separation is the garage because you
Yeah.
have.
So can you put a piece of molding across something to separate the facade?
I did suggest that at one point, but her husband, he says, no, I want a simplistic design. What does this do to?
We want clean. We don't want something that's going to look like a circus. I want clean, smooth cut. I don't want
Okay,
to make a big mess out of the house. I want it to look.
we have to make a finding that it's compatible in design and compatible in appearance and in scale with the neighborhood. That's one of the findings that we have to make. And when you have a 2-story and you're raising the roof on both sides as well, so it's much more massive than it is now. I'm going to have trouble with that, making that finding. So I'm just letting you know. I'm just asking.
So a wood trim would do the trick from.
Some kind of molding, something to separate floor 1 from floor 2 so that you don't have this massive white.
You mean like
Facade.
between where the garage door used to be and the window?
Basically, yeah,
The
yeah,
garage
where the
doors.
top of the
Garage
garage door
doors.
was.
Maybe I can talk to my husband about putting some kind of, there's moldings, like styrofoam moldings. that you
Yes,
put stucco over
yes,
it.
they're foam. Yes,
You can talk to him about something like that and see what he thinks about it.
yeah, I mean,
I just want something clean and looks nice. I don't.
but
want something that's
it makes
gonna
it,
look thrown
it
together.
makes it very massive and unlike all the other houses. So anyway. What, go ahead.
The
You have
house-
questions of the owner and applicant?
The one on the left on the bottom.
The one on the left at the bottom, but look at the house.
So the one on the left and the bottom, as I said, is the only exception. That's a new house. That's not old. I mean, that's been redone. And it's still not as massive as yours is going to be. It's too massive to me, but it still has a garage on the bottom, which makes it look like there's a separation. Do you see that one?
No, I know this house and no.
That's the newer one next to you, which looks like they took a different style and made it into Spanish and added that. But it still has a separation between the first floor and the second floor. And that's the only example that looks massive to me. The other ones, as you can see, are not. So
On Enbridge, I don't know if you know the street very well. When you first go from the park, and you go to that circle up Enbridge.
yeah.
If you go up that street towards the middle on the left-hand side, there's another one that's pretty massive and they have more.
So, I
Like
mean,
kind of more-
I have to say in the past,
It's also a new home.
the planning commission has approved things that I wouldn't have supported or I didn't. So what can I say?
Mine is gonna look more simple and look like it fits into the community. It's not gonna be a big mess, I guarantee you.
Okay,
It's
but
gonna fit into the community.
if you would put some kind of, look at the one in the upper right, which has the nice landscaping. It has a beam of some kind that's going across.
Kind of hard to see the trees that are blocking it, but yeah.
But above the driveway, above the garage, I mean, there's something to separate it. So it isn't so massive. I mean, I'm not a fan of those black windows either, but I know that people like them now. So,
Yeah, there's on Embers with a house that has red windows,
yeah,
which I didn't think of. But I think the black is nicer, more classy.
yeah, that's just a new trend, I guess. But anyway, go ahead. John, did you have a question?
Yes, I'll try to be brief. Is it Mrs. Levy?
Yeah.
Mrs. Levy, thank you. So I'm just trying to understand a timeline here a little bit. You say that you or your husband purchased this property about 3 years ago?
Or something from staff.
And you've not lived in it at all?
No,
And you bought it from this person who keeps stuff still at the property?
moving things out. for her.
But, well, it's 3 years, a long time. I mean, so she's still somehow occupying it to some extent? She's there, she brings her dogs,
When
she has
she's
a
there,
car.
yeah. When she is there.
Right, so she is there sometime. It's not a hard question.
Sometimes.
She is there sometimes.
Yeah. sometimes.
Okay. And that's been true for 3 years since you've owned the property?
Yeah.
Okay. And would you agree that the property has been in disrepair for the last 3 years?
Yes, and this is why we.
No, not, just yes or
Yes.
no is pretty good. So
Yes.
yes, it has been in disrepair.
Yes, and.
When was the ADU done?
This was finished, about when, about a year ago.
That's what he told me.
About a year ago.
Approximately.
And it is-
You want to see some pictures?
And it, no, I don't. And it has been, not been occupied?
No, not at all.
And why did you build an ADU? For someone to live in it, I assume.
Well, maybe a family comes to visit once we move in the property and
Okay.
we have families coming to visit for a week or two or
Okay,
out of the country.
fair enough, fair
You
enough.
know, just to have it. I don't think it's something that I don't know if we're gonna rent it out or not.
Okay.
It's not something we've decided on.
And you are, from what I heard, correct me if I'm wrong, you're proud of it, the way it looks.
Oh, yes, I am very proud of it. And I'm sure it's really.
And was it built on time?
Mrs. Levy,
Oh,
could you just move a little bit over?
Sure,
Because
sorry.
it's hard for us to hear and it
Yeah,
does.
actually finished before, a little bit before we were on time with the project.
Okay.
So my husband is the type of person, if he tells you that besides delays with obviously city inspections
COVID.
and yes, COVID and materials coming in, if he tells you that he's gonna have something completed at a certain time, it's usually before or exactly. We're not gonna delay on anything. So if you're approving us and we can get the ball rolling, we would like to start as soon as possible. And the sooner we start, the sooner we can get this eyesore into the gem of the neighborhood, you know, and walk by it and smile. And this is our plan. This is what I would like to see. I would love to be in the community already. My kids would love to have the pool in the backyard and, you know, the backyard and to be able to walk to the park. I don't have the park in the area where I'm in now, you know, really close. You have to drive a ways to get to one.
And I very much appreciate your candor, and I didn't mean to cut you off. I just
No, that's okay.
wanted to get some answers to,
No, understandable. I
questions.
mean, I'm
Okay.
here to answer your questions as
Okay.
much as I can.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
And Greg, do you have any questions? Dennis?
Oh, he wanted to add something to what you were.
In regards to the timeline of the project, initially there was another designer in charge of the project and unfortunately delayed the project quite a bit to.
Of the project we're looking at tonight?
Yes.
Oh,
So part of why it's taking so long, there was a year at least that was lost because of some issues with the
another
original
designer.
Yes,
designers.
this probably would have been done a long time ago if that didn't happen.
I don't think I opened the public hearing, did I? Or
No.
I did just for. I
You did mention that the public hearing was open, but we decided
So-
to continue talking to the applicant. So I think now,
Okay.
if we're done questioning the applicant, it's appropriate to go through comment cards and.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. We may have more questions for you.
I would love to answer more questions.
Okay,
Thank
but we're going to hear from some other people. We have received a lot of correspondence on this. Maybe I can read this. Is that all right? Or
I think let's
just the list I'm talking about?
just a list of people who submitted comments.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay.
That's
It's from Amanda and Connor Southwell, Lindsay Cooper and Laura Berman, Sherry Goldsmith, Mohammed Suey, Eli and Mimi Arbib, Sarah Lawrence, Kelly O'Regan and John Schaubel, Caroline Bogus, Jacob Cohen, Abishai Ehrlich, again, excuse me, Zahi and Hagi Cohen, Candace Weber, who's the president of the HOA, and Bob Leah, who's one of our commissioners who will be speaking. So I have some speaker cards for, I don't know if I can find them. Here they are.
And for the record, all of the public correspondence that we've received will be posted on the website on this agenda.
Oh, great. Okay.
And
But I just want to acknowledge that we did receive it and we did review that.
Plus, we do have, just to remind you, we have people who are participating by Zoom and some hands are raised. So if you're ready for that, you let me know.
Okay,
Can I just ask one question?
yes.
To answer some questions from people on Zoom, am I able to
Oh,
raise
yeah.
my hand and hand?
Yes, no, you, if you could stand by, because you may have to respond at some point.
Okay, but I just didn't want to interrupt if it wasn't okay. That's what I'm asking.
So first, I guess we've already heard from Miguel Loaiza. So then the only other person is Luis Mohammed, and again, excuse me, Mohammed Suey. I'm not sure how to say it, so please come up.
And just to clarify procedurally, we'll give each member of the public now 3 minutes, up to 3 minutes to speak. We'll get through all of the public speakers. So if you can have a seat at the end of everything, if there's additional questions for the applicant or the architect or the property owner, then you can come back up to address that from the commission.
All right, and for the public speakers, just tell us your name and your city residence.
Yes, good evening. My name is Luis Mohammed Sui, and I have been a resident of the Saratoga neighborhood for 18 years yet. Both kids were raised and went to the local schools. I wanted to come to support this project because we added an ADU to our property, and it is a process. And the landscape, and I apologize to all my neighbors because we had to endure some not so nice landscaping until the project was accomplished. Because you cannot do the landscape before you finish the work, or the way it just doesn't work. You would have to redo it over and over. I love the neighborhood because it's pretty calm. There is a lot of construction going on a regular basis. But if you want to have a nice place, you have to deal with this. And construction does take some time. And I really enjoy hearing some of the construction noise because it means it's getting better. I enjoy it. And the other thing that I really love about the neighborhood is we have people from different generations. It's not a dormitory area. We have young people. We have kids who go up and down the street with their tricycles, it's part of the neighborhood that I really enjoy. There's some older people who walk through the neighborhood to the best of their abilities. We have the opportunity to enjoy the park. And that was one thing that I really loved moving into the neighborhood, that my kids would be able to walk to the park and stay in a pretty safe area. And there are many homes in the neighborhood that do need some improvement, and some of them fortunately go faster, some take time, but I like to keep my eye on the result. I want the result, even if it takes sometimes a little bit longer. I want to see something nice at the end, and sometimes it does take time. And the other reason why I do appreciate this gentleman trying to improve this home is because it's going to be nicer for everybody to look at. When we built an ADU, some people were looking at it and, questioning manners. And when we finished the ADU, I had a lot of compliments because it was done in an aesthetic way. It's not an eyesore in the neighborhood. So this gentleman is trying to make this home beautiful so he can live in it with his wife and his 5 kids. They do need some space. Thank God I don't have 5 kids, but they are really brave to do that. And I hope that the city will approve and let them do this improvement so they have room and the place will be more pretty. Please help them out. And thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming and speaking. Let's see. So the other person here is Commissioner Leah, and then we have people online. So can we get Commissioner Leah out, or can he escape, or how do we have him speak? There are people on the line, apparently, but we don't know. Oh, he's showing up there. Thank you.
And although Chair referred to him with his title, he's just speaking tonight as a resident, private citizen.
Bob Leah. All right.
Good evening, gentlemen. I have lived just around the corner from the subject property for almost 50 years. I pass the property whenever I leave or return home. For as long as I can remember, the property has been an eyesore and blight. In recent years, it has gotten only worse. The condition of this house has really and continues to have a deleterious effect on the value of my home and the health and welfare of its residents. I will not waste your time repeating the comments made concerning the condition of the house and the actions of its owners, past and present. For the most part, the comments contained in letters submitted to the commission, eloquently stated by my neighbors, and I won't mention all their names, Commissioner Harrison did, have and continue to impact my residents and are incorporated herein by reference. I urge you to thoroughly review and consider these comments. I have several questions for the commission. Why was the Oaks of the Calabasas HOA listed as the applicant in a notice of public hearing? Who is really the applicant? Why were there no photos of the property included in the presentation package? This seems highly irregular. Photos would immediately prove many of the comments made in the emails that were submitted. Has code enforcement inspected and reported on the condition of the property? The potential hazards to health and safety are palpable. The fact that they don't want to open a file is unconscionable. When the ADU was constructed, they gave up a garage parking and did not have to replace the lost parking spaces. Where are the people who will reside in the new addition park? The street is already overloaded. Was the ADU a cat's paw? Will the construction take forever? Does the new addition require the installation of solar? The property has been owned for over 3 years and nothing was done. I fear to think of how long it will take to do what they're proposing to do. Lastly, it must be ascertained whether the proposed construction is an attempt to install a de facto apartment or boarding house where a de jure one would not be permitted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leah. And now, no, later you can. So now we'll take more comments for how do we get them in? And
I'll take them from top to bottom on the list in front of me. And the first that shows a hand raised is Candace Weber. So I'm going to allow Ms. Weber to talk.
And I mentioned her earlier. She's sending correspondence. She's the president of the HOA.
Good evening, commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can't see you, but we can hear you.
Great. Thank you for addressing this property. I'm going to be short but brief because I said quite a bit in my letter to you, and I would like to reiterate the concerns that I voiced in my letter to the Planning Commission and the Planning Department, which you've all read. The written depictions of the situation at this property are very graphic and real, as you read, and some of you even went to see. I, along with many neighbors, are asking for a denial of this project, given our years-long experience with this property before this owner and continuing after this new owner. If that is not possible, I am asking that mitigating conditions of approval be added to any final permitting to greatly improve the many extant health and safety problems at this property. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Weber. Oh, sorry, she's on a different commission. So, all right, who's next?
I see Jerome Conley, and I will allow Jerome Conley to talk now.
Jerome, can you identify where you live? What city you live in?
Hi, yes, I'm Jerome Conley. I live in Calabasas. I'm a resident in this neighborhood. I've been here for about 13 years. I just want to start out by saying I really, if this does get approved, I really hope that the project can be completed and that the vision that the owner has in her mind would come true. I do, however, have some very serious reservations based on the activity that I've seen around that property over the past few years. The house was in very terrible shape when I moved in 13 years ago. The woman who has been living there since then, was kind of very old and couldn't. It was kind of a sad situation from the outside perspective, and she obviously could not take care of the property. When the house came up for sale a couple of years ago, it was listed as was previously stated in this meeting that it should have been a tear down. And we were all kind of grateful that, oh yes, somebody bought it and they're going to tear it down and rebuild it. That did not happen. And then there was this very long process of gutting parts of the house. It was kind of weird to know what was going on, but a very slow project for doing the ADU and some other stuff that I have no idea what's going on in the back. But for all the work and the time that had gone in, there was not any concern for taking care of what the neighbors would see. And I find that kind of disrespectful personally. With that, I would say, on top of that, the size of this, and I'm glad I joined this call because the proposed size is really out of line with what the neighborhood can really accommodate, visually. I don't, it's everyone has their own taste, but it's it really would be a very out of place structure with at the proposed size. The house that you're comparing it to, just two houses up the street, is already very, very large and looks out of place for our neighborhood. But again, I know you guys are sticking to what the city allows and permitting, but in my view, I have doubts that this will actually come to fruition based on past performance. And then the last thing is that there definitely is somebody living at that house, and most of the time, and not some of the time, as far as I can tell. And so I'm a little suspect about what I heard here this evening.
Yeah, that's time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerome. Thank you for your comments and for coming tonight.
Okay.
Tom?
We have Amanda Southwell that I am unmuting.
Yes, she was one of the people who submitted correspondence, I believe, right?
Yes. I live next door directly to the residence, so the house in the bottom right. We've lived at this home for about 2 years and 3 months. The entire time that we have lived there, they have been conducting construction, quote unquote, with very little result. And as they've been doing this construction, it's been awful to live next to. They're extremely irresponsible with the way that they've done construction. There's trash on our yard every single day when they're working. They're an issue with obviously the dog that lives there escaping. There is absolutely someone living there. I saw her yesterday with her dogs. So I don't trust what they are saying and what will occur. So I just want to note the lack of responsibility with what they've done with the existing construction. And I don't foresee this getting any better. I also agree that having a house of that size in our neighborhood would be quite, if that ends up is quite a blight and would significantly diminish our property value. So I don't agree with it on that. And then the last part is that I would be very concerned about is the impervious surface. So if you are adding that much hard concrete onto the land, and we are directly, there's about a 6-foot hill from our property up to theirs. So when we have these really heavy rainfalls, the rain that's going to come down and not be absorbed by their property will flow directly into ours, onto our house. We've got 50-foot tall trees. The surface will continue to erode. And we also have a shared fence line, which has been an issue. So I don't see any of this getting better by adding whatever they intend to add, if that is in fact what they intend to add. There is absolutely someone living there. I saw them yesterday. I literally have a photo because the dogs were barking, and they have extremely vicious dogs and a 20-year history of issues with those dogs. And on top of that, these two people also own large German Shepherds and will bring them as well. I understand that's a little bit outside, but I'm just saying I don't.
Relevant to the animals that I have and not being on the property.
Well,
What's that?
Let's let Mrs. Amanda Southwell finish.
I do have some comments with her on the line.
Okay, all right, let's let her finish, and if she needs more time, that's okay. Go ahead, Mrs. Southwell. Hello?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm just.
By the way, are you speaking of Mrs.
Yes, I'm sorry. We have suffered quite a bit of damages as a result of the way that they have done construction. We are in litigation. We will be filing a lawsuit against them very soon. And we believe that they have demonstrated a considerable lack of responsibility and accountability with the projects that they have done. And going forward, I cannot see it getting any better or helping out the neighborhood or our property. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Southwell.
Michael, could we ask, can I ask Jacqueline to put up this?
We can't hear you if you're speaking. You guys are muted.
Is that he? He's one of the people who submitted correspondence, I believe. Oh, you don't have a list. Yeah, with Laura Berman. Okay, go ahead. Lindsay Cooper. Okay. Oh, it's hard for us to hear. Is that somebody? Is that Lindsay Cooper?
Hi, can you?
Ah, now you can. I'm sorry. So that's Lindsay's she. Okay.
Name and city.
Oh yeah.
Hello?
Lindsay Cooper, is that you?
Yes. So
Oh.
I live at 5223 Ambridge Drive. I live directly behind this house. You can see my pool in the background and the space behind theirs. So I've lived here for about 2 years, and we've had issues since we moved in, specifically with the fence and the dogs. There's been at least 3 incidences of one of the dogs that's the current resident's dog, who is living there and I heard the dogs yesterday, breaking into our yard and also breaking into our house, trying to break into our house. The dog has gotten in the garage before. We've dealt with animal control multiple times. The dog is known to get out, and there's been incidents where the dog has attacked other dogs in the neighborhood. I also have a 1-year-old, and I'm very concerned for safety because this family has shown significantly just complete disregard for the safety and consideration of the neighbors. My house is also on a significant downhill slope from them, and there's no sort of environmental assessment that's being required. As Amanda said, I also have 50-foot trees, and the damage that could be caused as a result of water runoff is extremely detrimental for the grading of the hill, the safety of our the possible erosion, and of course the safety of our house. There's absolutely somebody who's been living there, and in the 1.5 or 2 years I've lived here, I've gone to the house multiple times to return the dog. And I've also had the dog come into our yard multiple times and then return to theirs. I adamantly object to this. I also am very concerned about privacy, and we've had an issue with harassment by the owner. So the ability for them to see into our lot is deeply disturbing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's see, thank you very much, Ms. Cooper. Do we have anybody else? Do you want to submit a card, and then, is there anybody else online, first of all? I mean, on video? Okay. I shouldn't say video, on Zoom. All right. So if you could give Mr. Klein or Mr. Margolin the...
Hi, my name is Avi Eliav. I live in Woodland Hills, friend of the family. It's, I don't know what's the other alternative. We're trying to make it improve. And the neighbor, they're arguing about dogs getting in. This is not the issue. The issue here is to make that property livable for them and their family. And, you know, I don't see what the alternative. What are those people are suggesting? Not to do it? Leave it like that? What? Destroy the whole thing? He already did an ADU on that area, in that it's already built. So I don't know what is the alternative that those people are suggesting. The neighbor of the next to it, her dog got into their yard, and it passed 2 fences, and they have videos of it. So again, I just don't see what the other alternative. We're trying to present a plan to do it correctly. And if they're going to live over there, they will live over there, and they will make it nice. They wouldn't want the kids not running in a yard with a grass in the back or in the front. It's not happening. I mean, they have kids, and they want their kids to grow in. So I don't see any other alternative but taking care of and letting them build it already. They had a problem with the previous architect that it didn't work out, but they got a different one, and they're working it out, and they submitted all the plans that need to be submitted. That's all I have to say. I don't see any alternative. They need to build this house. It's for their family. And that's all I have to say.
Thanks for coming, Mr. Eliab. Is that okay?
Well, I'd suggest, unless we have anyone else who wants to comment, we could close the public comment period, and then at the discretion of the commission, if they could ask if the applicant, if they have more questions, or whether to respond or not to.
Okay. Are there any more people out there?
I do not see any other hands raised. Okay.
Then we're going to close the public hearing, and now I tell you what, so we can have some more some comments from you, and then what? And then we deliberate?
Yeah, and then we deliberate.
Okay. If it goes too long, I guess we can take a break, but if anybody wants one, otherwise go ahead.
So first off, I would like to mention there were absolutely no issues with the construction that I did on the ADU. There was absolutely no trash on the neighbor's yard. Let me explain one thing. There's been several neighbors that have come forward to me stating that Amanda Southwell has been going around, and not embarrassed to say, I wouldn't mind usually the constructions, but I'm still very angry with what happened with my dog, so I'm going to disagree with it. There are several neighbors that have come forth with that. I have never let any trash. I've had dumpsters. I've had many dumpsters going back and forth there, taking all of the trash from ADU. Never left anything on anybody's yard. The neighbor behind, she does not know, the one that spoke, I don't remember the name, the one directly behind, does not know that a year ago, I put, without tearing down the fence that's currently there, the wood fence that was falling apart that the dog was going through, she said, I placed more on my yard, a new vinyl fence there. She doesn't know that. She did not want to be involved in the cost of it. So we had taken the money on our own, thousands of dollars, and it's a very large area to cover, put brand new vinyl fencing there. And that was about over a year ago already. We have addressed many issues with the property, with the dogs in the back, and with all of that. Like I said, they don't know because they cannot see the vinyl fence, but we did take care of that. There's many issues we've addressed. In regards to Amanda's dogs, this has nothing to do with what we're trying to do. I have every intention to everything that I have mentioned to you that I'm going to do to this property, get it done in a timely manner. And like I said, upon your approval and upon getting all the plans and permits pulled to do everything legally and the way that it needs to be done, I plan on starting everything right away. And I would like to mention, if anybody is doing anything that is being very inconsiderate to all of you sitting up here, would be the Southwells. I'm taking the proper steps, sitting forth in front of you guys, pouring my heart out to you guys, letting you know I want to do this project. I want my family to move in there. When they've done a master bathroom remodel, full kitchen remodel, they're in process of doing the roof, and not one permit has been pulled on any of this work that they have done. They had trash on the front of their yard. I never one time said anything because I understand how construction is. And I understand that it takes time and that it's messy. We just try to be considerate and throw things away and keep it as neat as possible. What they are doing is just honestly vengeance. I never did anything wrong with the construction. You can ask many of the other neighbors across the street from me. The woman that owns the large property 5228, you can ask her as well if I've done anything wrong with the construction. If I've worked outside hours, I never did. Never disrupted anybody. We've always worked within the appropriate times that we're supposed to. And we are constantly trying to improve the property. I mean, if you look at the property now where the garage is and above, it's beautiful. To the left of it where there should be grass and where the front door is, yes, I agree. Does not look nice. And I will, for today, let my husband know, let's go and rearrange a few things over there and make it look a little bit better until the project is done. So, you know, the neighbors can see something a little more decent. We'll start working on that. And I mean, I can guarantee you what they are saying is wrong. I will work in a timely manner, get this project done at appropriate time when I promise it's going to be done. Like I said, I can't control city inspections. Things with COVID, inspectors are backed up. You know, there's people that are not working now. There's things that are out of my control, but whatever is in my control, I promise will get done. This property is not going to stay this way. I intend to have this property beautified, look aesthetic with the neighborhood. It is not going to invade in anybody's privacy. They have trees behind us. You can't see in their backyard, even with the windows on the second floor. If you go up there, they have trees there. You can't see into her yard behind us. I mean, all two-story homes, second floor, you can see your neighbors. Doesn't matter if it's in Saratoga or in Sherman Oaks, in Encino, and, you know, in LA, and wherever you go, a two-story home, you can see your neighbor's backyard from windows. So, I mean, that's, please take in consideration. I'm sorry, my words are, I'm trying to get around to everything. This project will be done when I say it's going to be done. And again, I'm going to repeat myself. There are city inspections. I don't have some things I don't have control over on the time that it can be done, but everything that I have in my hands, I'm going to make sure it's done and it's done on time. And like I said, when the project is done, I invite all of you to come and see it inside and out, front and back. And you'll see that I kept my word on what I was going to do.
Thank you very much. Don't go away. Does anybody have any other questions of the owner's wife? No? Okay, I don't either then. Thank you very much, Mrs. Levy.
Thank you.
All right, so we've already closed the public hearing. Now it's time for us to make comments ourselves, unless somebody wants a break for convenience. No? Okay. All right, John, then, do you have any comments?
Well, I'm troubled by several things. And I'll tell you right now, I could not approve this project unless there were some very substantial conditions imposed and work done prior to the main work. I'm troubled that this is, I understand we've had COVID. I understand there are a change of contractors. But what I'm hearing is testimony is that it is and has been essentially a tear down looking place other than the ADU for 3 years. And to me, that's a lot of time and hanging on to this notion, well, we'll get it all done when we get a project approved. It just doesn't ring true to me. I also find it very peculiar that the city says we don't code enforce if there's a project pending, which will take care of all the problems. I mean, that's just announcing to the people in the city, if you have a code problem, get a permit in application quickly because they're not going to do anything. That doesn't make sense. I mean, if this has been as bad as some people have said, and I'm not saying it is, I haven't been out there, and nothing's been done, and it has been allowed to percolate in this problem for 3 years, I'm stunned, to be honest with you. I haven't gone out there like you have, Mr. Chairman, but that troubles me. So
just to clarify on the city process, we are
Yes.
we are a complaint-based code enforcement department. So if I don't have anyone from code enforcement here tonight, so I can't get into the background, but if there was a complaint filed, then code enforcement would have followed up. Prior to this public hearing, I don't believe a complaint was formally filed with the code enforcement department. Therefore, that's why nothing started. After the public hearing notice went out and we received the correspondence, then staff went out and confirmed some of the concerns that were raised. That's why I'm said tonight, we were waiting to find out what the final decision was at the planning
Doesn't
commission
staff
level.
doesn't our planning staff ever communicate with code enforcement though? You'd think when you go out and take pictures and you see that, you would say, hey, code enforcement, why don't you go out and check it? And they never do that. You didn't do that. I know with the Westridge, with the Dons, nobody sent code enforcement out. And yet it was obvious that that's not a single family residence. You know, when you talk to the guard.
Well, again, you're making assumptions and that's a different project.
No, I mean, it's just, but it was the same situation where our planning staff does not communicate with code enforcement. They are relying only on outside complaints.
Okay, I'm explaining the situation. I just want to make sure that there is clarity that there's not a loophole.
But when
At
you went
this
out to
point-
take those pictures that we see,
Right.
nobody picked up a phone or walked over to code enforcement.
Chair Harrison, if I could, I did speak with our building official and one of our code enforcement officers this morning. They're aware of the situation. We haven't received a official referral, as Michael had mentioned earlier, from a resident in the area. The last code enforcement case that has been submitted to them was closed in 2018. But about the current situation at the site, they informed me that in cases like this, where we have a willing and able property owner who is verbally saying that they plan to fix up the property, they are not inclined to start a code enforcement case until the situation changes.
I think you explained that. I just think not regarding this, there's some structural problem that John is pointing out, that you shouldn't rely on just complaints from individuals. If you go out and you see something, then say something.
I think this is maybe more appropriate for commissioner comments.
Whether or not there needs to be a complaint, what I did hear was that we're not going to enforce if somebody has come along, filed an application and says we're going to fix everything in the project. I'm sorry, that just doesn't make sense to me. So anyway, I'm opposed to this. Yes, for my comments. I'm opposed to this unless, and I would give the applicant time and staff time to come back with a timeline and a set of conditions to deal with anything that the city thinks is an immediate problem that has to be dealt with, whether that's getting rid of weeds, whether that's dealing with a mosquito-ridden pool. I don't know. I'm not saying it is. I haven't been out there. Whether there's some falling down fence that needs to be addressed because dogs can get in and out, things that can be done immediately, not with respect to a project, which is 2 years away from getting done. I mean, let's be honest. Let's be realistic here. This thing has been sitting there for 3 years. They've done stuff. They've done an ATU. That's commendable. If it's as good as they say it looks, I haven't seen it, then, that's great. That's probably a pretty good signal that they're being truthful about what they're going to do. So my comments are that I would vote no unless and until we have some sort of continuance that allows the party to come back with a real timeline, some immediate fixes of immediate problems, and has a narrative which sets forth everything that's going to get done and not just because I heard this, all this bad stuff is going to get fixed in connection with the project. Great, wonderful. Let me see the narrative. Those are my comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Greg?
Yeah, it's pretty clear from the correspondences. There's some recurring themes here. And I think that part of the problem is that this property has a history of being an eyesore and dilapidated, probably much before the current owner purchased it. So I think that the neighborhood sentiment is understandably negative. And I understand all those things. Being a new planning commissioner, I'd like to actually ask council if, if these issues that are being brought up by the neighbors are something that is under the purview of the planning commission, or are we here to decide whether this project conforms generally with the general plan and all of the code requirements that the city has? My understanding is that's our job here, is to ensure compliance with the city codes and the general plan.
Right. I think to answer your question is that what's in front of the commission tonight is the project, and which is the site plan review permit itself. And I believe it's page 14 of the packet where there's 6 findings regarding whether the project complies with the applicable provisions of the development code and CEQA and so on and so on and so on. Now, the applicant in front of us has nothing. They can't really pay for the past sins of the previous owner, but if they're willing and able, like it was described, to do this, then the commission could discuss possible conditions that if the applicant accepts regarding some of the issues that were mentioned in public comment.
So it would be under the purview of the commission to entertain and try to solve some of the issues that these neighbors have voiced repetitively.
If the applicant is willing to accept some of those conditions. Does that make sense? Sorry, I don't know if I answered your question.
So we could work on a set of conditions if you want.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it's somewhat overreach on some of this with respect to incorporating all of the issues that all of the neighbors have. Is that overreach as far as the planning commission goes?
Right.
But should these issues be directed to code enforcement or vector control or the fire department? That's what I'm asking.
Right. So I think there is some of that. And that's why staff was saying that they work hand in hand with code enforcement. So that as the director mentioned, that there is, or maybe it was Jacqueline mentioned that there was, that they're talking to code enforcement and stuff like that. So, but no, and that's why I think some of the commissioners were a little bit maybe frustrated, might be the word, with what was in the packet, because no, that's not what's in front of us tonight, and that's not really the job of the officials in front of us tonight to look at some of those issues at all times.
Okay. Is there a time limit to complete projects that are associated with permitting?
The entitlements typically have a 1-year time limit. So they are required, or if they don't pull their permits and begin construction within 1 year, then the entitlement will expire unless they request a one-time extension. Once they begin construction, there is no mechanism to force them to complete it within a certain time period. Just want to make sure that's also clear for everyone. As long as they have an active building permit, they can continue with construction. And to actually respond a little bit more to your first question, you are very correct. Really, what's in front of the commission tonight is the merit of the project and how it complies with city code. Because it is a site plan review permit, it is a discretionary permit. So the commission does have some discretion as it considers the application in front of it. But I would caution that any condition has a nexus relative to the project. So there were issues that were brought up tonight, some that are have to do maybe with who's living on the property, dogs running around. Those are not really relevant to the actual project at hand. But if in the incorporation of a discretionary action, cleaning up the property or maintaining the property at a certain level has a nexus within the findings and the conditions, then that could be something that the commission considers.
Okay, and then I just had one more question. Does the city follow up on the implementation of a landscape plan?
Yes, and it depends on if there's a condition of approval with regards to it, that could dictate how it's followed up. Typically, if it is part of the approval of the project, then, and oftentimes a condition will be in there that will require the landscape to be installed within certain days of final occupancy.
Is there enforcement and somebody checking to see that that's done, or can that just fall through the cracks?
Anything could fall through the cracks, but it generally is enforced.
Right. We would typically, as with anything else, it'd be a condition that we would check up on, make sure that building and safety is aware that they have not conformed to X, Y, or Z to include landscaping, and they would not get their final inspection sign off until it was done and done correctly.
That's all I have. Thanks.
Dennis.
I'd like to ask staff and our council about a means by which we cure the inadequacy of the reportage and also the expectation of the cures of many of the controversial things that the neighborhood has obviously brought to our attention. It seems to me that we could refer this back to staff and the design review committee in order to deal with all the issues that have been raised here and by the public and by staff itself. Is that not an option where we can, in fact, instead of penalizing the people who are trying to fix the problem, instead say, let's make sure that we know all those things and how soon and how well they will be done, and bring it back to the commission at some point in the near future with that plan in place. Is that possible for us to request that we refer it back to DRC?
I think there are multiple questions there. So I just want to make sure I kind of understand. The matter can be continued, but you were mentioning additional, I think, reportage was what you wanted to know. So if you could just, were you imagining that the project or certain conditions be fulfilled within a certain timeline? What were you envisioning?
Well, I don't think anybody here is ready to vote to approve this project without additional study and additional strategy for getting, the issues addressed, and assure everybody, us, the staff and the code enforcement people and the neighborhood, that this is going to end up well. And it seems like we have mechanisms, but maybe I'm not familiar with the mechanisms. We could certainly continue this.
Right. But the idea would be,
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I cut you off there. I said the idea would be continue it or send it to the DRC for continue it for further study to make sure it's compatible with the neighborhood, or work further with the architect to make sure that about the massing. Is that what you're imagining? Or
yeah, well, I think there's just a lot of uncertainty plaguing all of us, including the owner.
Right, but I think the
And
devil is in the
I think it would
details
be
here.
good to put it back through the process, but, look to make sure that it's done with, some expeditiousness. But, staff can tell us, in fact, what the constraints are for that kind of a recommendation. Are we not able to send it to DRC and back to staff?
At this point, I don't see much value in sending it back to either DRC. There could be value sending it back to ARP if there was specific recommendations from this commission that they wanted ARP to reevaluate.
Well,
DRC already
let
looked at
me
this.
stop you. I don't want to be here until 10 o'clock trying to figure out how this body of folks is going to tell you how to do the job that we need to get done here. So I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that there's got to be a mechanism that we have. If it's a simple continuance, I'll make the motion to continue this to, May 15th or whatever our next,
May 4th, I think, is our next meeting.
well, beyond May 4th, because there's a lot of stuff here and needs to be fixed. Or at least made certain and made understandable by everybody who has brought us to, essentially, these letters in here in my packet are complaints. So if I were to look at those as complaints that would trigger code enforcement action or communication with the fire department or with the vector control people or whatever, that's a problem. I don't want to delay this any more than our best efforts might be able to sustain. So what's the mechanism that we might use tonight to essentially have the DRC say what we have and what we need? If not the DRC, then you tell me what the mechanism is within our city staff to make this happen.
It depends what the ultimate goal of the commission is tonight.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
It depends what the goal of the commission is tonight. You can continue this item, but my recommendation is if you continue it, you provide the applicant with specific direction as to what the commission wants to see at the next hearing. If that is, they want to see modification on the exterior, adding some of the elements that the ARP already suggested, that could be one specific direction. If the direction is, I want to see a modification to the size of the project, that could be a specific direction. Again, the point here is you can continue it, but the recommendation from staff is that it is continued with some specific direction to the applicant.
Related to the findings. What would be the required findings for approval or denial?
Well, I mean, tonight we could just simply pass on the controversy and just say, we're going to recommend that the staff develop a resolution for approval or denial and see where the cards fall. And it'll come back in 10 days, or you have 10 days to appeal after we deal with the denial or the approval at the next consent item on our agenda, if that's May 4th or beyond. And I'm saying that sounds to me like the best path to follow at this point. So we're not being punitive. We're not being disrespectful to the people who have brought all of their concerns to us. And we're also not overburdening either staff or applicant or all their people, because then they have a time frame in which to deal with the issues we're talking about.
If I may just build on.
How do I solve the problem, Tom?
Well, I mean, to build on what Michael was saying.
I'm sorry?
To build on what Michael was saying, I think to have some specific direction, then I think we'd have a basis for continuance so that there would be more information, specific information, and some improvements would be brought to this commission. So for example, Michael already mentioned, for example, that architectural refinements, because that was discussed by this body and by the ARP. Yeah. And I've actually sketched a couple options while we've been sitting here, and it certainly could do some things. We could ask the applicant, or this body, you all could ask the applicant, as part of what they would return with, would be some improvements to the front facade, because that was something that was brought up as an issue. A second component could be, and I would recommend this, by the way, that we would ask this property owner to bring back an interim property maintenance plan that would then be implementable based on if this commission would approve the project via condition approval, something that would have to be put in effect immediately and carried out while they're going through the building plan check process. And so once you would have that kind of information, you might have a better perspective on addressing some of the issues that came up, but in a concrete way that stays within the realm of a site plan review approval.
That sounds excellent to me. Can I just make a?
Well, you're the boss. So I mean, I just want to make one concluding remark, and that is I'm in the same position that John is, and that, you know, with what I've seen and heard and know, and, you know, the experience that we've all had with, you know, the controversies that do occur in our community, you know, we should figure out a way to move forward instead of basically just saying no game here. So,
right, if we were forced to vote, I think we all have to.
Tom has already given you 3 ideas, and
Right.
I would say that after your comments, it would be worthwhile making sure we have, let's just say, our top 5 things, but the applicant knows now all of the things that we're concerned about. And they know that we're probably going to recommend a resolution of denial, because I would recommend that given what I know at this moment, but I don't want to do that. What I want to do instead is say, how do we enable the project rather than disable it? Because it'll be better for the community.
No, I agree. If we had to vote tonight, we would all deny it probably. So instead of that,
we recommend.
That's right. And then it comes back.
And we
I
have
forget.
a resolution.
We've changed
at the
the
next
form.
meeting.
All right. So on the specific things, I've discussed them, and I agree with the ARP, our Architectural Review Panel. There needs to be a separation. So if it's foam, that's fine. It just needs to go all the way across where there used to be a separation between the first and second floor. They also, there was a setback. I mean, there were different materials. There was a setback, and that's all gone. Now it's all smooth white, glacier white, and stark white. So it's massive. So it needs to be cut. And I don't care if that molding is black, actually, because I know they like black and white, but and it can be smooth mold. It can be like a semicircle or something, but it's just got to go all the way across to separate floor 1 from floor 2. The second problem I see is with those windows, those flat windows. And we had this issue. Oh, you weren't here, but with the project in Westridge, where the HOA finally forced them to add some depth to the windows or molding around the windows. So in your neighbor's property, the one that's kind of massive, the one that's just north, they've added they have molding around the windows, not black, not stark. It's the same color as the paint. So it could be white, but it adds a little texture and a little definition of those windows. So it doesn't look so massive. Yeah, please.
No, the hearing's closed.
Oh, okay, yeah. So those are a couple of things that I'm interested in as far as and the trellis. That was the third thing. Make sure they're fireproof. So whether it's metal or vinyl, because I believe that the expert told us vinyl just melts.
Building code will dictate that already. So that's an outcome. We'll
I just
achieve
want to make
regardless.
sure, because I don't know I just want to make sure it's fireproof enough.
If the commission decides you want to continue this, then we'll carry forward.
I think that's where we're headed.
Ideas.
As far as the interim plan, I know you say it's not necessarily related, but it's hard. There's a credibility problem here. I believe there is somebody living there, and she's the former owner. She's in her 80s. But in that interim plan, I hope she can be gone. Her car can be gone, because it's also
dealt with.
Right. I think the car alone is a code violation. You can't just park an unlicensed car, forever in a driveway. And it's not even drivable. And it's out in front. It's an eyesore. So I think so these things need to be addressed in this interim plan. And the landscaping isn't as hard to do as I made it sound. They just need to get rid of those 3-foot weeds and just cut it down to the ground. Dirt would look better. And the dead tree in the pot, get rid of it. It's a fire hazard. And this is like a rat trap with all this extra, overgrown foliage. They could just cut it down. And in that interim maintenance plan, they just need to make sure that it's always cut down. So while they're building, there are no more weeds during the building. Because I think John said it's going to take 2 years easily. It took me a long time to build an ADU. That was a simple 350 square foot ADU. This is thousands, this is huge. this is a big project because they're redoing the whole house inside and out. And I get it because it was dilapidated, but it's got to be maintained the whole time. There can't be weeds growing up and debris left out.
If I may interject, I
Yeah,
do believe
sorry.
that the interim maintenance plan is a great suggestion and we should do that, but it should be against the relevance of that plan should stick to the purview of the project, which deals with a site plan review. I don't believe that we should be restricting someone from living on a property that they're legally allowed to live on. We can double check our municipal code, and if there is an issue with parking an inoperable vehicle
Oh,
in the
there is. Well,
driveway,
we can't argue.
then we'll have to remove that.
Sorry, we'll check state law also on that point.
So that's an eyesore. That needs to go. I mean, you can't have more eyesores when you're trying to fix things up. I mean,
Again, we can address the vehicle as long as it's permitted under our code,
Okay,
but the interim maintenance plan should just deal with the specifics of the project.
so if the vehicle, even if our municipal code doesn't deal with it, ask the HOA, because I know in my HOA, we don't allow it. So I don't know if this HOA.
It's not a formalized HOA that
They don't have any CCNRs?
I do not believe so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a voluntary HOA over there, so it's not one where you have CCNRs and deed restrictions that go to every
Oh,
property.
okay. I'm sorry.
Now,
Okay.
We'll look into the automobile. I know from having visited the site that it appears to be inoperable, that the plates are expired by a couple of years and it's in the front yard. I think it's reasonable to be able to determine it abandoned, and we possibly could demand it be removed and even require towing at some point after there's been adequate time for the property owner to address their own problem. But we will notify them and we'll handle that through the means available to us.
I mean, I doubt Mrs. Humer or whatever, how do you ever pronounce her name? I doubt she even drives it or could drive. She's in her 80s. I mean, I don't know. So,
May I suggest it's 9:00.
do you want a break or?
No, I don't want to break. I want to finish.
Oh, okay.
And what I'd like to do would be to put a motion on the floor and that we continue this project and direct staff to work with the applicant to develop the top 10 list, but certainly the interim maintenance plan and all the other things that you've heard and that they've promised to do. Make the list and bring it back, whether it's May 4th or, May 20th or whatever we have to deal with. Because it takes time and they need to have time to have to understand everything that's going on. But I don't want to have to recommend that we ask you to prepare a resolution for denial. The public hearing is closed, ma'am. I'm sorry.
No, I
okay.
just want to know, she seemed very amenable to doing those things.
To let you guys know, if it has to do with cutting down the weeds in the front yard and I can do that this weekend.
Yes.
And
We
take
don't
care of
need
that.
any more promises right now. The hearing is closed. Let me
Okay.
let me give my
Sorry.
motion, some light.
Just told me that.
I'm
yeah,
trying to help you out
yeah.
here, miss.
Not a problem. I'll start this weekend with the front
Okay.
door, just. so
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me finish the motion. I'll make it brief also. Let's just say we're going to continue this to a time in May and later, because May 4th, if that's our next meeting, is going to be a doozy anyway, and you need time. But if you take our top 10 list that you've heard from us and that you've mentioned in order to discipline the four of us as well in terms of what to do next, that's the direction I'd like to have you consider that we're giving you so that we can move this forward to get something concrete done. So, Mr. Attorney, is that possible that I can phrase it that way?
It is. I would ask before we hear if there's a second on the floor, I would ask that we, instead of top 10, I would ask that we have the city planner list what you mentioned and that were discussed.
Right.
And then.
Well, take the top 5 then. I don't care. I mean, I'm just looking to make this.
I just want to make sure
as manageable as we can. I'm not arguing over that.
I don't want to assume what those are. There's one other specific item I forgot to mention, and that ARP was concerned with the drawings showing the pitch and of the roof and the dimensions. And when I went out there and looked at page A10, it was clear that this is not an accurate drawing. So if you can have them redraw page 810 with the appropriate pitch, they said that they were correct, but they're not correct. Because it says on the right above the window, there's like 6 feet and they're not. It's like 3 feet. So I know that the drawing isn't right. I don't know if the windows are high enough. I think the windows may be higher than what's showing. So if they could just check it, the ARP asked that
It's
too.
good to know, and it'll come out on the wash.
Yes,
And
yes,
it was referred back to staff to work with the applicant to, answer what we are going to, I hope, do, and that is continue this to a date certain in May or early June, if that's.
We're looking at May 18th.
I'm sorry?
May 18th is the second meeting in May.
Okay, well, then May 18th is fine with me, and if that's a sufficient
Is
time.
there a
And,
second?
the applicants say, hey, I need another 2 weeks. That's okay.
Okay, is there a second for that?
I'll second the motion to continue with one additional comment. With respect to this interim maintenance plan, I want to have included in that a timeline. I don't mean specific dates, but
many weeks or
within
months?
30 days of the approval, X will be done. Within 60 days of the approval, Y will be done, so that there's real teeth to it. With respect to Mrs. Levy, I can just get rid of the weeds this weekend is, to me, nice, but that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a more thorough interim maintenance plan with hard deadlines, real fixes, and so that's what I would like to include.
Yeah, by all means.
It's not changing anything. It's just adding the word timeline, really.
Well, and that's what Tom is making the list of the things that we need to deal with. So,
I second.
and Michael, you're going to
We also,
make sure that we don't go afoul here.
well, we also heard earlier a request for a narrative to identify really all of the components of the project. So it's not relying just on the site plan, but a narrative as to what additional components of the project will be completed to bring the property up to standard.
You're
That's in
right,
my top 5.
right. We didn't want this to schlep on for, another 10 years or, so is there anything else?
And I was going to say, to simplify it all, May 18th is the meeting at which we most likely will be prepared. So I move that we continue this matter to the May 18th meeting with all the comments that we've talked about and directed to staff and considered and meet with the applicant to develop a plan forward. That's the motion I'm making.
And before we vote on the motion, I just want to ask if staff has a list, that they're clear on the list, and if they could just read it to ensure that the staff and the commission are on the same page about what staff should
So
do.
Jacqueline will read off what she's got in her notes, and before she does that, I just want to make sure that before the commission would vote on a motion, that there's clarity among the commission members that includes or doesn't include staff also bringing to you a draft resolution one way or the other for possible consideration. Just make sure. Otherwise, my interpretation is going to be that we simply bring back the items we're going to talk about, and a resolution would remain in abeyance until we get direction.
I think we're in favor of expediting this to get this project going. I mean, unless there's opposition to that.
But that's the right way to go.
Oh,
That's my motion, and it includes what you just said.
We can tweak it if we need to, as we did tonight. So we can tweak it. And I guess that's how we're going to be doing it from now on. So
we will
Greg, is this approach okay? So what you want to, Epi wants you to list the things that you've heard so far, and
I think that means we'll also bring to the commission a draft resolution of approval for your potential consideration. Obviously, the commission could reject that and still direct us to either make further refinements, or you could direct staff to prepare a resolution denial, but we'll go ahead and bring a draft resolution of approval along with the items Jacqueline's about to
At the May 18th meeting, right?
May 18th.
At the May
That was
18th
part of his motion.
Okay, so to summarize, you'd like to continue the project to the May 18th meeting with the below stipulations to provide an interim maintenance plan. That interim maintenance plan should include provisions to remove the abandoned vehicle on site, to abate the weeds on site, to remove debris and dead plants within the front yard area, and include a timeline for all of the things that would be done in the interim within 30 days of approval of the project, 60 days, et cetera, for those things that need to be abated. Secondly, revise the front facade in accordance with the ARP's recommendation to provide differentiation between the first and second floors. Revise the roof on sheet A10. As mentioned, the window is not depicted correctly. Provide a project narrative, which should include a written description of the proposed project and proposed rehabilitation efforts. And lastly, provide a draft resolution of approval. That will be something for staff to do, and then the first 4 will be for the applicant to provide.
So my only question again is the separation. I'm not in favor of just cornices, and I believe the engine.
Don't get into that.
Oh,
yeah.
I still think a molding across would work.
You're designing and that's not our job.
Okay, all right.
So we're moving this by my motion,
Okay.
if we vote on it, to May 18th. And we are going to direct staff to deal with at least those items that you just recited for us, Jacqueline.
And we may.
That's my understanding.
And I think that the applicant and the neighbors and everybody knows now all the issues that are out in the open. And they can all help make this thing work and improve things much quicker than waiting 2 years to see the project complete. So, I mean, if we clean up the property in the next couple of weeks, there's a nice start. So
Yes.
we'll be able to report that on May 18th, I'm sure, right?
Any other?
We are hopeful that the applicant property will do something.
Any other comments from commissioners? No?
I
All
would
right.
like to just point out that with a date certain to May 18th, that means this will not be renoticed because we have a date certain. So make sure that's on the record as well.
Does that penalize anybody?
No, it's not penalized. It's just a certain, that's how
Works for
the,
me.
Yeah, that's
how the
fine.
process goes. If we did do a date uncertain, we would then, whenever that would become decided, we of course would renotice, but this is a date certain. So I'm just letting everybody know in case anybody's watching who's wondering, there will not be a new mailed notice. Anybody who's watching is now noticed constructively that it will continue to May 18th.
Well, and I don't know if she's still on, but the president of the homeowners association testified, and if she's aware of the date, she can certainly let the homeowners know as well.
Can I ask a quick question? Did I hear that there are no CC&Rs in the Saratogas?
This is what we call a volunteer HOA. There are a lot of very involved people who own property there and live there who collaborate and they do great things together as an HOA. But there's not a set of bylaws and CC&Rs that when they bought their property, they had to sign on to, and they're paying dues, right? Nobody's mandatory to pay dues into the type of an HOA that a lot of gated communities have that were built more recently. So they have an HOA that really works well for them.
Oh, I understand.
But anybody who doesn't want to join doesn't have to join.
You know, let's just move on this so we can.
They may actually have some ancient CC&Rs, but it was simple because I lived in a community like that and we had some, but they are not even enforceable, like racial ones.
That's how I go.
But I'm seriously. Anyway, so let's vote. All those in favor of Dennis's motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous, Effie?
Yep, the vote passes unanimously. Item 4 continued to.
So was there a second?
I second.
There was, yeah.
And I would just like to thank everybody who participated, particularly the applicant and the designer and all the people who complained and all the people who supported.
Yeah, no, really.
Because
Thank you for all.
we're not done yet. You know, we got a lot to do here.
Right.
So,
Thank you for all your comments and for coming down. And we'll get there. So now we're all right. So now we're moving on to it looks like the director's report. And I didn't even know we were having a busy May 4th meeting. But it sounds like it.
Thank you. No, actually, I don't know if May 4th is going to be so busy. This potentially would have returned to that, but there's not going to be enough time.
Oh,
May 4th, we'll bring back the resolution for Rose's Garden. Moving forward after May 4th, on May 18th, we're looking at the capital improvements project review. That's an annual requirement that the Planning Commission review the capital improvement project list in the budget and confirm that it's consistent with the general plan. It's not an allocation of funds or resources. It's just to confirm that there's consistency with the general plan. And then, of course, this project tonight will be continued to May 18th. Do want to point out, I want to remind everyone, as was mentioned earlier, about the Arbor Day event on April 23rd from 2 to 5. So thank you for bringing that up earlier, but I want to make sure the meeting is ended on that as well.
I don't think that was brought up. I think we brought up.
Yeah,
Earth
Commissioner
Day. Or is that?
Byrne and Washburn, I think.
But it was Earth Day, not our.
Sorry, not Arbor Day. I meant Earth.
Okay.
On April 23rd, the same, yeah. And I do also just want to let the commission know that this, over the past month or so, there have been several larger commercial projects that have been submitted to the city. There's a medical office building on Calabasas Road, west of the Muro Bridge, actually right where the Muro Bridge starts. So there's an application that was submitted, so that's pending and currently under review. There is a subdivision request for a property on Mulholland Highway close to the southern border of the city. I don't have the specific parcel number in front of me at the moment. And finally, an automobile dealership was submitted on Calabasas Road in the former Sperling location. The application submitted is for a Kia auto dealership. All of these projects will eventually get posted on the city's website. So anyone who's interested in following these projects can go to the website and find out what's going on with them. And of course, eventually, as the projects proceed forward, they will come in front of this commission.
Michael, can I ask you to send us a short email with what you just told us about those dates and project issues? Yeah, I couldn't write it all fast enough.
There's no dates.
There's no dates for those projects.
There's no dates yet. All these applications were just submitted, so they're in the very preliminary.
But the notice is what I'm looking for.
He just wants to know what the medical.
I just want to know the
building,
name or the place or whatever, just what you just said.
I can send the commission a summary of each of the project applications.
That'd be great. Thanks.
Reports from commissioners.
It was an interesting hearing. I had a lot to say that I said to myself.
Are you on now? Daddy, go ahead.
It was an interesting hearing. I had a lot to say and I said it to myself.
Oh, are you fuming out there? Sorry. John, do you have any reports? Greg, do you have any reports? Dennis, any reports?
No.
I don't have any either. So, anything from you, Epi?
Nothing from me.
Oh, well, thank you, everybody. And
I'll move to adjourn.
thank you. A second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Unanimous, Epi. See you all on May 4th. Thank you, everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah.